Aita for calling off my wedding after finding out my fiance never had the money he promised to contribute. I, 33F, have been with my partner, 32M, for 5 years. He proposed in March 2024 and we agreed to get married in December 2025. He promised to cover 70% of the wedding costs and said he'd transfer money to my account whenever I paid for something. I ended up handling all the planning and bookings. By April this year, I had already paid around $500K, local currency. But when I checked, he hadn't sent me a single cent. I kept reminding him, and he always said, "Yes baby," after work. I work in an accounting firm with over 40 clients, so I'm insanely busy and didn't have time to double-check every day. But I trusted him. When we finally sat down to talk about it, I found out he didn't actually have the money. He planned to ask his parents or use future income, meaning he had been lying about having savings. All this time, he bragged about being financially stable and successful. He's a lawyer, but apparently, it was all talk. I understand that people can go through tough financial times, but lying about it and letting me carry all the burden. That felt like a betrayal. I decided to call off the wedding and the relationship. Now he's throwing the wedding expenses in my face, even though I did all the work. My parents think I should go through with it since the engagement has already been announced to family. Aita for calling it off. I feel heartbroken, used, and honestly, fooled. And seriously, if you can't afford to get married, why propose in the first place? Comments. Commenter 1. I'd be asking what the hell he's spending his money on if he's a high-earning lawyer with no savings. Commenter 2. You didn't call off a wedding, you cancelled a subscription to nonsense. Good for you. Reply, thanks. That honestly made me laugh. I needed to hear that. Commenter 3. Calling off the wedding was a sensible and self-respecting decision. You deserve a partner who is honest and reliable, ESP when it comes to finances. Commenter 4. NTA, but to be clear, this is about the lying and betrayal, not necessarily about the money. Reply, yeah 3. It's the dishonesty that broke me, not just the lack of money. If he had been upfront, things might have been different. Update. Hi everyone, thank you so much for the support. I didn't expect my post to get much attention, but reading your responses helped me feel less alone and more validated in what I was feeling. It's been a week since I called everything off. He's been texting and calling non-stop, flip-flopping between apologizing and guilt-tripping me. At one point he said, "We can still fix this, it's just money." But it was never just about the money. It was the lying, the manipulation, the months of pretending to be someone he wasn't, and letting me drown financially and emotionally while he played the role of the dependable fiancé. I'm staying with a close friend for now while I sort things out. I've cried more than I thought possible, but each day I feel a little lighter. The fog is lifting. His family finally reached out, trying to mediate. His mom even asked if we could just scale down the wedding instead of canceling it. I told them very calmly that there is no wedding to scale down. I'm done. And I mean it. I've also started looking through everything I paid for, checking which vendors I can cancel or get partial refunds from. It sucks, NGL, but I'd rather lose money than lose myself in a marriage built on lies. My parents are slowly coming around. My dad said something last night that really hit me. It's better to disappoint people for a moment than to disappoint yourself for a lifetime. I don't know what comes next. But I know what I left behind, and I know it was the right thing to do. Thank you so much again, you really helped me a lot. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm glad your dad is in your corner and he is exactly right. I hope you'll be able to cut your losses as much as possible and get most of your money back. Commenter 2. My parents are slowly coming around. Good, because this was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. My parents think I should go through with it since the engagement has already been announced to family. Commenter 3. It's the lost cost fallacy. Stories number 2. Aita for telling a coworker that her choices of name for her twins is idiotic. A coworker of mine, 39F, recently had twin boys after a long battle with infertility. She has made her first appearance into the office with her new babies to introduce them to our team. When asked what she had named the boys, as up until this appearance she was undecided, she told me that she was naming them Sean. When I asked about the other baby, she said no, they are both Sean, one with an A and one with an E, so Sean and Scene. This coworker's last name is also Sean. When I pointed this out she said yes, like Tom Tom or JJ. I immediately and without thinking said that is the most idiotic thing I've heard, and it's going to be so confusing. A bunch of people laughed and a bunch immediately looked away. After she left, I got a few text messages saying it's not my place to comment on people's choice of name. Am I the asshole for saying that that is a terrible naming idea? Edit. Additional information. No, they don't have middle names. She wanted their names to be like Tom Tom, or JJ. This is apparently not the first round of negative feedback she has had. We are on good terms, we have worked together across 3 companies over 12 years, she just said it'll grow on you. The names both pronounced Sean like Sean. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. YTA. That was incredibly rude and you made others uncomfortable. It's the first negative feedback. She didn't ask for your feedback. Reply. It's not the first, she has had a few rounds of negative feedback before the office. Not that that excuses my behavior. Top comments. Commenter 2. Maybe I'm also an but if she can't handle the backlash for her kids' names, think about how her boys will feel growing up. Might as well start now because they're in for a childhood of jabs and jokes. Hopefully she legally changes them after a good night's sleep in a few months. Commenter 3. NTA someone really should have told her they were stupid names before she used them. The names are dumb now and will age badly. She set these kids up for grief. Maybe it's rude to tell her the truth, but someone had to. Commenter 4. Grief and bullying are in the future for these innocent twins. Other children will have no qualms or self-censoring when calling out the stupidity of the names. OP rudeness is nothing compared to what is coming. This is a case where honestly should trump politeness. NTA. Commenter 5. NTA. Good luck keeping their records apart for the next 80 years. I feel sorry for their teachers, friends, future spouses, creditors, and law enforcement. Update 1. My coworker's husband, who is also a coworker, saw the post last night. They had a good chuckle and ended up agreeing with the replies that the naming process wasn't ideal, and maybe the overwhelming process of having 2 newborn left them too tired to think straight. Despite the fact they had already sent off the paperwork to Birth Deaths and Marriages Office, the place you lodge births for in Australia, they called up the Brisbane office and the paperwork had only been provisionally processed, due to Christmas time, and they have used this time to reassess. They have withdrawn the paperwork, for seen only, and will think of a new name, but they are keeping Sean as they like it. I have also been reported to HR for making this Reddit post, not by the parents, they think it's hilarious, so well, if it isn't the consequences of my actions. They also want everyone to know that calling her an idiot isn't the worst thing I've said to her this year, and while I'll definitely an that's more of an in general thing than tied to this situation. Happy holidays to everyone. Final update. A lot of people wanted an update post my meeting with HR for whatever reason, so here it is, but as expected it was underwhelming. Met with HR yesterday, 10th, meeting was pretty brief and definitely a waste of everyone's time. They asked if I were aware of the company's social media policy. I said I was, and I am fairly confident that I have not breached it. They agreed I hadn't, and asked me to be more considerate of coworkers' feelings and to not put this meeting all over the internet. I said I'll definitely be doing an update and that I'll be sure to not call the next person naming their child Sean an idiotic. Again, I work in banking, and while there is a long way to go with fixing the culture across every banking organization, I think HR was just doing their thing, and making sure I'm on notice in case I don't know, take a photo of me stealing candy from baby while wearing the company logo or something. Stories number 3. My neighbor is upset that my new fence is too high off the ground. The fence is 2 inches off the ground at the far ends. Due to the ground not being level, it is 5 inches off the ground in some spots. My ground needs to be graded evenly. My neighbor claims my fence cannot be that high off the ground and wants me to do something about it. He has a fence right behind ours. You can see it behind ours at the bottom. It's a short picket fence that goes all the way to the ground so that his dog doesn't escape or dig under. His fence doesn't offer the privacy that we wanted. He wants to remove his fence now that our new privacy fence is up. But he is complaining because if he removes his fence, the dog will become a problem. My fence is on our property, not his. Do I need to fix this? Is this my problem? Or his problem? Comments. Commenter 1. That's his problem. Ask him if he's paying for your fence. Commenter 2. And maybe point out his fence protects him from the liability of his dog damaging your fence. If he knows it's gonna dig. Commenter 3. How could this possibly be your problem? Reply. He says it's not up to code. It needs to be on the ground. He says 1 to 2 inches is okay but not 5 to 6 off the ground. Commenter 4. LOL code. There is no code on how close it has to be to the ground. Just how high it is. Commenter 5. If there is a HOA then there just might be a code. Reply. No HOA. Going to the town building department to settle this once and for all. Commenter 6. You are handling this all wrong. Tell him to get fucked. If 1 doesn't work, go to 2. 2. Ask him where in the code it says it should be a specific number and paragraph. When he gives you a vague answer for 2, go to 1. Update. Thank you everyone for your inputs. It's been helpful. There are a lot of questions. There is no HOA. A permit is required by the town followed by an inspection. Everything was done the right way. While against the guidance of some commenters, I went to the building department to see if it was done wrong. It's installed fine according to them. Only because it's been asked many times I will answer this. I make no judgments, they are young boomers or maybe older Gen X. They are white. We are millennials, I am white, wife is Asian. We live in a blue state but our neighborhood can be very very red. I let our neighbor know that we wanted to put a privacy fence a couple years ago and I kept him in the loop throughout the whole process. I agree with many commenters that it's better to keep a friendly relationship with your neighbors. We have to live with each other so we should be respectful to each other. It makes for a peaceful life. I would want the same courtesy. I ask permission to cut branches that become nuisance from their trees that reach over to our property even if I am not required to. It's the right thing to do. Neighbor offered to pull his 4-foot fence down and we replace with ours provided we all could agree on a style. They offered to pay the difference in price between what we pick and what they decide. My wife's only requirement is that the fence is solid up to 6 for the privacy she wants. We offered a few styles and colors that we didn't really want but it was fine if it makes everyone happy. They were a hard no on all the choices we presented. They wanted a 5-foot solid fence with 1 lattice on top. It's nice and all but offered no privacy from 5 up. Wife was insistent that we have privacy up to 6 foot. They would not budge. We offered 6-foot solid plus 1 lattice on top which would be more complicated due to needing a variance but it's doable. Hard no from neighbor. They insisted on the partial privacy. My wife's only requirement is privacy. Long story short, we couldn't agree on a shared fence. Neighbor said to just put up our own fence to our liking on our property. He said no to a shared fence. After fence goes up, neighbor inspects and complains that it is too high off the ground and it will be a problem for his dog when he removes his fence. He sent a code for pools. There must be a 4-foot safety fence 1 off the ground around the perimeter of the pool and our fence doesn't meet it. Well, this is not a pool safety fence. It's a privacy fence. We will add the pool safety fence when we install the pool. Fence is high now because it is level with the ends of the property. At some point the yard will be graded and the fence will be uniform across the entire yard. Comments. Commenter. He's welcome to put his preferred 4 fence up on his side. His pool and your fence are completely unrelated. Your fence isn't required to meet his needs. Plus, your fence is on your property. He can go fuck his hat. Stories number 4. Aita for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after finding out only our side of the family were having to pay to attend. Obligatory. This is a throwaway account clarification. I'm very active in a D&D sub that I don't particularly want it to tie to this situation. So my younger sister, Katie 28F, and her partner, Chris 29M, are getting married in April in Dubai. She has always wanted an extravagant wedding and is going all out on this, so the wedding is happening over 4 days. There's 70 guests but they want us, me, my husband, and parents, to stay in the same hotel with them along with her bridesmaids, which I am MOH, and groomsmen. The hotel is pretty luxe so with flights is costing us just over £2,900 each. Chris' family are also staying in the hotel which includes his parents, 2 brothers, and his nephew. They are well off. I don't know exactly how much they earn combined but I know Katie is on $88K and she is the lower earner. But about 6 months ago Chris and Katie came to us and asked to borrow $17K more. They stressed it would be a loan paid over time and said the venue had increased the price, Dubai law was different blah blah blah. They paid this money or they lost the lot. We believe them and I offered to loan $7K and my parents the other $10K. So long story short, I have since found out through someone else that the $17K wasn't for the venue, it was for Chris' family to fly over there. They saw how much it was going to be, didn't want to pay and refused to go. I asked Katie and she confirmed, so my first question was if they were paying for his parents why not pay for ours? I would never expect them to pay for me, even if we couldn't afford it, I'd have wished them well and stayed at home. And her answer was because they can afford it. She got very defensive and said this was the fairest way she could think of doing it. It's hard enough planning a wedding etc., but when I asked, if you genuinely thought this was the fairest way to do it, why did you lie about what the $17K was for and say it was a venue issue? She couldn't answer. My parents are aware and are very disappointed they lied, but have said they're still attending, but I have backed out. To me it feels like my parents are being taken advantage, and if they couldn't afford to pay for both our and Chris' parents and his brothers and nephew then they shouldn't have just paid for the 4 parents or no one at all. And they especially shouldn't have lied about it. Katie and Chris keep calling and asking me to attend, saying I'm making them feel bad and ruining their day. But the whole thing just feels icky to me. I'm genuinely an open book, so be brutal. Am I being an AH here? Should I just suck it up and go? Edit crumbs. That's a lot of comments, haha. Thanks so much everyone. Just wanted to answer a couple of questions/comments that have come up a lot. The repayment. My husband's brother is a solicitor and he kindly drew up a contract and repayment plan for both myself and my parents so the money will be paid off within 12 months of the wedding. If they don't stick to this, I have access to a free solicitor, haha. I hope it wouldn't come to that, but that's why I have the papers for worst case scenario. Asking for the 7K back, I might be a soft touch, but asking for this back feels like a step too far. Like I'm mad as hell but not enough to actively try ruin their wedding a few weeks before, which it feels like, right now at least, is what that would be doing. But hey, give me a few more days to stew. Edit 2, thanks again for all the feedback everyone. Just another quick FYI, a few people have asked about Chris' family or seem to have the impression they're well off. I'm obviously not privy to their financial situation, but what the limited amount I do know from what Katie has said, Chris and his family grew up very poor. Before all this I'd always thought Chris was a lovely guy, but I had caught him in the odd but harmless white lie, things like where he went to school, the type of house he grew up in, etc. I get the impression he is embarrassed or resentful of his upbringing given their lack of money, and this is how he now values his own self-worth, by his much money he has. My guess is when his family said they couldn't go he panicked and worried people who ask why they weren't there, and he would either have to say they couldn't afford it or he couldn't afford to pay for them. And look, his past trauma/experience is not for me to judge, but if that were the case it just makes me more mad that they both didn't plan ahead and talk to friends/family about what they could afford before booking Dubai. If it was such a deal breaker for his family to be there, they should have factored in the cost of paying for all parents to attend instead of thrusting a 3K per person bill at them and expecting them to rock up. Update, Aita for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after finding out only our side of the family were having to pay to attend. I had a lot of messages at the time of posting, asking for an update on what I decided to do, so wanted to check in. So in short, I didn't end up going to the wedding. Katie and Chris basically harassed me constantly until few days before they were due to fly out. I received a belligerent voicemail from Katie saying if I didn't go I wasn't her sister anymore, I was embarrassing myself and her and Chris, I was a horrible person, and most shockingly if I didn't go then her and Chris wouldn't be paying me or my parents back for the money we loaned, so trying to blackmail me. She would say it was a gift, I faked the contract and I would have to take her to court. She was clearly drunk at the time. The voicemail was left on the night she was having her at-home hen do, which I also obviously didn't attend, but it was so beyond anything I thought she was capable of. I ended up sharing it with my parents and they also reluctantly pulled out of attending. I heard through friends and family in attendance at the wedding after her and Chris were telling everyone I had alienated her from her family and told lies to our parents, we gifted money and expected them to pay for US etc., and they made the decision to uninvited myself and my husband. Other, more insulting things were said that I don't particularly want to go into, suffice to say they were very hurtful. As I mentioned in my post, I had my brother-in-law, solicitor, draw up a contract for repayment for both myself and my parents. What was supposed to be the first repayment date passed without word from either of them, so BL picked up from there. His attempts to reach them were ignored apart from one email from what I think was a fake law firm outlining the money was gifted, the contract was fraudulent and to take them to court basically. In response to that, BL sent a copy of the voicemail Katie left and a final demand outlining the payment plan was now null and void and we wanted the money in full within 30 days or we would indeed be going to court. Magically the full amount appeared in our accounts 5 days later. Again, I've heard on the grapevine since the wedding they have been telling anyone who would listen we asked for our gift back out of the blue and disowned them and how much of a difficult financial position they are in because of this. So that's that. I can't see myself having a relationship with her after this, which is devastating, but at the same time, I truly believe now after everything that isn't my fault. Thanks again to everyone who gave advice. I hope this update is enough for everyone who asked for one, smiley face. Stories number 5. Our son, 19 years old son, landed at Dulles from an international flight at 7 p.m. At 7:45. He texted that he was heading to customs. It's now 11:30 p.m. We haven't heard from him and cannot reach him. I've called the phone number for the airport to page him and for customs there's no one there to answer. Both lines say they're closed. We live in Boston. He flew into DC to attend his cousin's graduation before heading home. His phone is going straight to voicemail. What would you do at this point? 20 minutes later, his phone was at 65% at 7:45. The last time I was able to track him. He's supposed to Uber to a hotel to meet family there. They haven't heard from him yet and he hasn't shown up. I'll try the airport police. Comments. Commenter 1. Is there any reason he may be getting held up for visa or immigration issues? Reply. He goes to the American University in Bulgaria. He's an American citizen. He's 19 years old. He's never been arrested. I don't know of any reason why he would be held at customs or have any problems. I spoke with him before his flight, letting him know how crazy America is right now and to make sure there's nothing that would cause a problem. I just got off the phone with the Dulles police. Gave a description of him and his flight information and hopefully they'll call me back tonight. Thank you for the suggestions and insight so far. 2 minutes later. Commenter 2. I've been stuck in Dulles Customs for 2+ hours before. Do you know where he flew from? The Lufthansa flight from Munich is the biggest flight that arrives in Dulles, and it landed just before your kid arrived, so he might have been in customs past 10 p.m. Dulles is like 45 from DC, so it's definitely possible that he hadn't arrived at his accommodation yet. Is he a US citizen? Reply, he was on the flight from Munich. And I understand there was some thunderstorms earlier, so perhaps with a bunch of delayed flights. He's just been stuck in customs. That's what I'm hoping for. Update comment. 1:15 a.m. Update. Airport police called me back and confirmed he's still in customs. She couldn't tell me if it was long lines or detained. She said the customs officer that she spoke with said he would have him call me when he's able. We're not a Trump supporter but hasn't posted stuff about it. Update comment. Finally heard from him at 4:30 a.m. Transcription. Mom, please, you have to pick up. The FBI has seized my phone and my computer and I need help ASAP. I'm at the airport. I don't know what to do. It's like 3 a.m. Update comment. A few minutes later, I booked him an Uber and he finally got to the hotel. He was too afraid to talk too much on the payphone at the airport. But he said he was questioned about his loyalty. The actual F. They confiscated his laptop and phone. They said he may get it back in a day or two. Clarifying comments. Commenter, scrub that phone number, bro. Reply, that's the pay phone number he called me from. Thanks though. Commenter, why would he have to ask you to pick up? Wouldn't you have been glued to your phone by that point? Reply, I did answer but the connection was bad. He couldn't hear me. I tried calling the number back and that's when his call went to VM. Commenter, Bulgaria is a proxy for Russia, lot of spy craft going on. It's a bit unusual for an American attending university there. It could be random, but this feels more like a tip-off. Editor's note, as many commenters below and on the OG post have pointed out, this is not true about Bulgaria and the university is incredibly well respected. Reply, I do wonder if he was targeted due to coming to the States on a one-way ticket from an Eastern Bloc country. But he has his student ID and student visa info. He's a US citizen, born, raised, no criminal record. Commenter, OPU posting previously about the consequences of espionage 7 days ago makes me feel like there's more to this story. Reply, as a crime podcast enthusiast I wish that were the case. But no. I had just read some news story about a spy exchange or something along those lines and just wondered about the consequences. Unfortunately, this is just a 19-year-old American kid who was targeted for whatever reason. I'll find out more when I talk to him later today. Hopefully he sleeps for a long time. Update comment, 2 hours later. Commenter 1, hi, I'm originally from Boston and now live around 15 minutes from Dulles. I'll DM you my number. Feel free to reach out if your son needs help accessing any resources while he's in this area. Reply, thank you. I'm heading out of Logan soon. Update comment, 1 hour later. This post is legit. I'm heading to DC. We're getting a lawyer but beyond that I don't know. Once I speak with him, we'll decide next steps. If it were me in his situation, I would share this all over the place. But he's young, I'm scared of the repercussions for him, especially in this political climate. Update. Hi everyone. Thank you all for the response to this post. I was at a point of desperation last night and didn't know where else to turn. The support, concern, and offers of help have been amazing. I was finally able to have a conversation with my son. He's still pretty exhausted and jet-lagged and I'm sure in shock. At this time, I don't want to provide specific details for his protection. We're going to be talking to an attorney as well as others that may be able to give us a better understanding or clear this up. He's a kid. We just want this to be over for him and to be able to attend college and travel as the law-abiding US citizen that he is. I will let you know, he made his way to the customs stand and handed his passport to the agent. He was asked the standard questions and then they put a yellow card in his passport and told him to go to another area. He said he was in an area with about 10 other people. They would call people into a room one by one. They searched his bags several times. He was then told to go back out and sit down. There was a lot of waiting and watching other people come and go. He said the initial officer searching appeared to be border control. In addition to searching his bags, they asked him repeatedly if anyone was waiting for him. He told them no, his plans were to go to hotel to meet up with family. After several hours, 2 FBI agents came in. They would ask him questions regarding his feelings towards the president, terrorists, and political memes he liked on Instagram. Then send him back out to wait for long periods of time. They also asked him several times if anyone was there waiting for him. No, he shouldn't have answered their questions and shouldn't have let them search his phone, although clearing through customs I don't know that he really had a choice. But he's only 19, he was very scared, he had been up over 24 hours at this point. When they told him he could go, they said they're keeping his phone and his laptop because they're not done searching it and should get them back in a couple of days. Luckily, he remembered my phone number without having to look it up on his phone that he didn't have. He said he was worried that we didn't know where he was and didn't know what was happening to him. That's when he was finally able to call me around 4:30 a.m. He was detained from about 8 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. He's done nothing wrong. There was not a specific activity he participated in that they questioned, specific group that he belongs to, nothing. From what I gather, they were trying to find something. They found nothing, so now they have his laptop and phone. OOP adds some more information in a comment. This is what they gave him when they decided they were done. Oh, and they told him to use a pay phone to reach me. Detained for 8 hours, reason for detention, border search. OOP adds some more information. He's white, 1/4 Asian but marks Caucasian and looks totally white. We were told he was a random pull, senator's office. We are going to be speaking to an attorney that practices in this area of law. Multiple press agencies have reached out but we are waiting to speak to our attorney. Thanks again. This is crazy. Stories number 6. Aita for not moving back in with my mom and hanging up on her when she called me crying that she missed me and wanted me back. My dad died when I, 17, was 11. My mom dated for a while but nothing serious until she met Dan. Dan's a single dad with 2 kids, 4 and 6, and after dating for almost 2 years they moved in together 3 months ago. I was cool with it until 2 incidents happened in a week. First one was coming home to the kids in my room and my room was trashed. I'd made my bed before school and they'd pulled it apart. My clothes were all over the floor. The 4-year-old has pissed himself and the evidence was left visible on my piles of clothes. My mom had taken the kids out of the room and cleaned up the 4-year-old but left my room as it was for me to clean up. I was angry. Dan explained it away as they're just young kids and told me not to be mad. I told him to watch his kids and keep them out of my room. Mom told me not to be mad at anyone and these things happen. I said not if they kept an eye on the kids. I asked if I should go in and do the same to their room. Dan told me I'm old enough to know better. I told him to make his kids clean it and Mom and Dan were quick to say they were too young to do that. The same thing happened a week later only without the 4-year-old pissing himself this time, and this time they wrecked the photo of me and my dad that was in my room and they broke the office chair I had in there. This time I lost it on my mom and told her that I was getting the fuck out of there and she could keep Dan and his little brats to herself because I wasn't dealing with it. Mom told me not to be so rash and said I just needed to calm down. Dan stood in front of the door to stop me from leaving. He said my mom's heart would break if I left. I told him I wasn't living with him and his kids. I went to stay with my grandparents and my mom expected me to stay at most a week or 2 and then come home or whatever. But I see this as home now. Not having my room trashed or the bathroom all messy and gross from Dan's kids has been so good. And I'm so mad about that photo. I had a copy but it wasn't the point. My mom's only now starting to accept I'm not coming back. She apologized a few times but I ignored her. She called the other day and cried and told me she missed me and wanted me to come home and she'd do anything. I hung up before she could finish and it didn't convince me to move back in. Which sent Dan off on a rant at me over voicemail about how selfish I'm being and how I'm hurting my mom. Stories number 7. Aita for not stopping my little brother from humiliating our dad's husband on their wedding day. Li, 19M, attended my dad's wedding last weekend. He married Kevin, 36M, the guy he cheated on our mom with. I was 16 when it came out that our dad, 44M, had been having an affair with Kevin for months. Our mom was blindsided. It was messy and ugly and destroyed our family. My little brother, Sam, 14M, took it especially hard. He hasn't spoken to our dad unless absolutely necessary, and definitely never accepted Kevin. I've been more neutral, mostly for survival cause I still need help with school, rent, etc. Anyway, our dad basically pressured us into being part of the wedding. Sam didn't want to go at all, but our grandparents begged him, so he caved. I should have known something was up when he got real quiet the morning of. So here's what happened. Right before the ceremony, while everyone was getting ready, Sam offered to help Kevin with his tux jacket. Kevin handed it off while checking his phone or something. Sam slipped away for a few minutes, then came back all innocent. What none of us knew was that Sam had taken a little container of itching powder he ordered online, and rubbed it into the armpits and collar lining of Kevin's tux. Cut to the ceremony, Kevin starts fidgeting. Then scratching. At first it was subtle, but by the time they got to the vows, he looked like he had fleas. He was tugging at his neck, rubbing his underarms, visibly sweating and red. Guests started whispering. Our aunt asked if he was having an allergic reaction. My dad looked confused, Kevin looked miserable, and Sam was sitting there with the blonkiest expression I've ever seen. Kevin ended up rushing out before the ceremony finished. They had to stop everything for 15 minutes while he changed into a backup suit. The photographer had to scrap a bunch of photos. And of course, people started asking questions. Afterward, my dad pulled me aside and asked if I knew what happened. I said no, because technically I didn't, but I had a pretty good idea. Sam confessed to me later and said, he didn't cry, but he'll remember it. That's enough. Now our dad isn't speaking to either of us. Kevin's family is saying we sabotaged their most important day, and my grandparents are saying we both need to apologize. I don't think I will. I didn't plan it, I didn't do it, but I also didn't stop him. So, Aita for just letting it happen. Stories number 8. How to catch a thief. This happened a few days ago and is still ongoing. Me, 35F, and my 35M, live in a 102-year-old house in a small town in a rural farming community on the west coast. This particular area has been hit hard with thefts from tweakers and other drug addicts. So a few months ago we got cameras to put up, including a doorbell camera. We share a driveway with our neighbors and are very good friends with all of them. They are a large family with lots of kids that live in a very large old schoolhouse. The mother is elderly, and very sweet, and most all the kids are grown that she had either adopted or fostered. 2 adult children still live there. One just himself and the other has a partner and 4 children. Her oldest is in elementary school. A few days ago in the morning I found the door of the gas tank on my car open. This prompted me to make a mental note to look at my footage from the cameras later that afternoon when I got home. I also found a large pocket knife on the ground next to the gas tank of our other vehicle that didn't belong to us or our neighbors. I sent them a picture of it and asked. That afternoon I checked my cameras and found that at 6:40 a.m. someone in a Chevy SUV had parked just at the end of the driveway on the other side of the fence. They then proceeded to walk up and down my driveway 3 times, walk up to our garage door and look around in it, didn't go in, and then up onto our front porch looking for something. In the footage it shows he was carrying a length of plastic tubing. It was obvious he was after gas and had tried to siphon both our vehicles, and when he couldn't get anything out of them, one was empty and the other wouldn't open from the outside, he was searching for a can to steal. We had one empty gas can where he didn't see it, so he ended up walking away with nothing. So I downloaded the videos and sent them to my neighbors to see if they recognized him. They texted me back immediately and told me it was one of their brothers who is a drug addict and is trespassed off their property and has a history of theft also. They encouraged me to contact the sheriff and file a report. I also made several vague, no names or who I think it is, posts on some local community pages with the videos asking for information. I was given a few leads, but the majority consensus was pointing to the neighbor's brother. I gave all of this information along with the videos and pictures of the knife to the sheriff for the report. The deputy that took my report said, "Neighbor's brother is a thorn in many people's sides." The way he said it and the feeling I got from the whole interaction was that they were watching him closely and have some kind of ongoing case with him. They also asked if I had made any posts online and I told him I had, was very vague and only asked for information. So that's where I'm currently at with the legal aspects of it. My petty revenge. Since I still had that gas can that the thief didn't see, I decided to utilize it. But I needed more supplies. I needed some gas, paper, Vaseline, fishing line, glitter, a Sharpie, sugar, and some tape. I went and put about a half gallon of gas in the can, for the smell, then added a cup and a half of sugar, a bunch of glitter and topped it off with water from the hose. I then taped a note, "Smile. You're on camera asshole," to the bottom of the can and attached it with the fishing line, so he couldn't see the line and it would take him a few extra seconds grab it, to our porch right below the doorbell camera where it can be seen. Lastly, I smeared Vaseline on the underside of the can handle along with a bunch more glitter. Now with the trap baited and set, I wait. Hopefully I will have an update soon. TLDR: thief tries stealing gas. Gets caught on camera, identified and reported. I set a trap. Update finally. How to catch a thief. So it's been just over a year since we caught a thief trying to siphon the gas out of our vehicles. The sheriff didn't do anything at the time other than noting it on his record. The thief has been in and out of jail several times over the last year for various other reasons. I set out my gas can the day we first caught him last year and I would regularly check up on it since it was right below our doorbell camera next to our front door. This morning I noticed it was gone and so I checked my camera footage and bingo. I caught him. He covered his face this time, but I confirmed it with the thief's family that it was him. He was also scoping out the place earlier in the day in a white SUV he was driving. His license is permanently suspended, and I caught that on camera too. Now on to the hilarious part. When I was talking with the thief's family confirming it was him, they told me that the very next day the thief's car, the white SUV, had broken down and he was texting his family complaining about it and that someone put water in the tank. Now I knew there was a chance that I may not find out the results of my petty revenge, so I'm so glad that I did. And I'm glad that I didn't give up on it either. After I was done talking to his family, with their encouragement and blessing, I contacted the sheriff again and filed a report and sent them all the videos I had. This time they assured me that there will be actions taken and charges filed. I am planning on getting another gas can and mixing up another concoction just in case another moron decides to steal from us. In the meantime, I will update when I hear more from the family and the sheriff. Yes, I am evil. Any haters can kindly screw off. Stories number 9. Whipped for not letting my best friend stay at my house again after she told me we're not family. My best friend of 12 years and I just had a situation that really hurt me. She's been staying at my house with my family for the past month. This isn't the first time she's stayed long term. We treat her like family, and I've always said I view my close friends as chosen family. Last week, we went on a trip to Miami. On the last day, we were tired and rushing to pack. I had borrowed a pair of her sneakers. She told me not to pack more sneakers cause I can borrow hers. I packed my heels and purses that we planned to share. I assumed I'd be wearing the sneakers I used for the airport to leave to come back home. That morning, she decided to wear them instead, which is totally fine, they're hers. She offered me another pair, but I didn't want to wear those. I noticed another pair outside her suitcase and asked if I could wear them. She danced around the question, beat around the bush. I then said, "You don't want me to wear these, right?" She said no. I responded, "Just say that then." I'll admit my tone was frustrated. I didn't yell or try to start anything. I know I sounded irritated. Later, we talked about it and she told me my comment felt like fighting words. Literal physical fighting. I explained I wasn't trying to be hostile, I was tired and frustrated, and I apologized. It wasn't that deep to me. Then she said something that really hurt me. "I talk to my sisters like that, but we're just friends, not family, so that's not acceptable between us." That stung. She's been sleeping in my bed, helping cook for my family, sharing life with us for weeks. Not to say because of this that I can speak to her, however, I understand where she was coming from on that, but her saying this sprouted a completely separate issue. I've always seen her as family, even if we're not blood. I said, "You're staying in my house," and she backtracked, "Don't get it twisted, you are family, but friends shouldn't talk like that." Still, the damage was done. I feel like I crossed a line once, but she dismissed the whole foundation of our bond. I told her again that I didn't mean it that way, that I'm not perfect, and sometimes when my patience runs thin, I slip up. I've had similar issues with family too. It really only happens when I reach a point, and that rarely happens. During our talk, I also brought up that she was in a mood that morning too, short and not her usual self. I asked her to acknowledge that, but she didn't. She didn't apologize or reflect on her own energy at all. Then, mid-convo, she goes, "Me and our other friend are going to North Carolina this weekend if you want to come. It's an open invitation, I guess." The way she said it felt weird. After everything, that I guess rubbed me the wrong way. For context, she's invited me to visit her in California too. I haven't been able to go, so she's not a bad friend. But right now, I feel really hurt. I opened my home and heart, and after one miscommunication, I'm being told we're not family. I'm considering not letting her stay with me again, just to protect my peace. Whipped for setting that boundary. Stories number 10. Aita for leaving the weekend friend trip after being made to sleep on the couch. I, F29, and Josie, F30, have been friends since high school. We live apart but still keep in very regular contact. I was invited to stay with her and her husband, Leo, M30, for a few days because their town was having a huge annual festival that we were all interested in attending. They had asked me to come early this year. Maybe a month or so before, they informed me they invited some college friends to stay for the weekend as well. I was excited for this because I have only met their college friends a handful of times and I know they are really close. The plan was for me to stay Thursday through Monday. I should also preface that when Josie and Leo bought their home, I stayed with them for a month while I was between jobs. This was many years ago now, but since it has been dubbed my room. It is obviously not actually mine, but I have stayed in it every time I have visited them since. I drove 4 hours to their place on Thursday. When I arrived, their college friends were there already and I was shocked to see it wasn't just them. Josie and Leo had invited their friend Shane and his fiance, and their friend Sarah and her husband. I have met Shane and Sarah before but not their partners. I was immediately irritated because it felt like a couple's get-together already. I have a partner of nearly 3 years who I live with, Oliver, who Josie and Leo have met several times, and he was not invited on this trip. I tried to get over the awkwardness and exchange pleasantries, until I went to go upstairs and put my bag away and Josie and Leo stopped me and told me that Shane and his fiancée were staying in that room. I was like, whoops, my bad, I should not have assumed, and asked if I was in the other, smaller guest room. They said no, Sarah and her husband were in there. They told me then that they hoped I was okay with sleeping on the couch. I was really trying not to be too annoyed or cranky about this, but I had just driven 5 hours and was under the impression I was getting a bedroom for the weekend, mostly because we had this weekend planned for months and they had never mentioned otherwise. I would not have been opposed to a couch sleep for maybe one night, but there was no way I was going to sleep on the couch for the entire weekend, especially since we'd be drinking and partying pretty heavily. I asked them why they didn't tell me plans had changed so I could get a hotel sooner, and they insisted they didn't think I'd have a problem sleeping on the couch. Apparently Sarah and her husband were planning on getting a hotel but waited too long and couldn't find an affordable one last minute. At this point I was really irritated, both by the partner situation and the sleeping arrangements. I called Oliver and he was upset for me. We both looked for hotels in the area but could not find anything affordable for the entire weekend. I told Oliver about the couples and he was annoyed to not be invited, since he likes Josie and Leo a lot. Finally, after like an hour of back and forth, Oliver asked if I wanted to come home and I honestly really did. I privately told Josie and Leo the first was uncomfortable by the situation, wished everyone a good weekend, and drove back home. I got a call Saturday morning from Josie and she said she was really disappointed that I had acted so rashly and she wished that I had stayed. I told her that I didn't understand why she didn't update me on the sleeping situation as soon as she knew about it, and she told me the only reason I was booted to the couch is because Sarah and her husband both couldn't fit. So then I asked her why she didn't invite Oliver if she had invited the other couples, and she just said sorry they hadn't thought about it. I told her that I was upset and hurt by the situation and I didn't regret leaving. I received another message from her last night saying everyone had left and she was really disappointed in me and that I ruined her weekend because she was upset the entire time. I am starting to feel bad and also FOMO from not being there. I had been really looking forward to the festival and hanging out with everyone. Anyway, Aita for leaving. Edit. As I am reading through the comments I am untangling some of the feelings I was having. I am upset by being assigned to the couch, especially because it was last minute and I was not told beforehand. An entire weekend of partying with an uncomfortable sleeping arrangement and no privacy really sounded miserable. I am not 22 anymore, but I do think I am more upset about Oliver's exclusion and just didn't piece it together / really held on to the couch as an excuse. It really did feel like it was made into a couple's weekend and somehow Oliver and I were excluded from that. I hated immediately feeling like the seventh wheel. Edit 2. I did not know Shane and Sarah's partners were going to be there literally until I walked in and saw them. Commenter 1. ESH, you just assumed you'd have a bed, you should have asked. This entire weekend sounds poorly planned and a lot of assumptions on everyone's part. Driving 5 hours only to turn around right away is pretty dramatic. You could have stayed one night, you even said one night on the couch would be fine, and gone home the next day. Reply. I assumed I had a bed because the original plan was for me to have a bed. When we made the plans in January, we both confirmed I would be staying in a guest room. Shane and Sarah were added to the trip early April, and it wasn't until Sarah and her husband informed them they couldn't find a hotel, which, to me understanding was like a week before the trip, that Josie moved around sleeping arrangements and didn't tell me. Commenter 2. They should have told you in advance. It was foolish not to, and avoidance behavior. But at the same time I hope you can talk it out. Friends who take you in for a month during tough times don't sound like entirely horrible or malicious people. If it were me I'd give it some cool down time and then reach out to hash it out with them calmly. Reply. We have been friends for 15 years, I know they are good people. I hate that we are upset with each other. I would really love for us to move past this. Commenter 3. Info. How was it decided Oliver wouldn't come? Without knowing how that conversation went, it's tough to weigh in. When they first invited you, how did they make it clear the invite was for you only? It's very unusual when two people live together to invite only one on a weekend away, especially when the only other people involved are also a couple. Did you say anything then? If you accepted without even checking in about Oliver coming, they may have gotten the impression there wasn't a lot of interest from you / Oliver in him attending. Just need more info overall. The couch thing is definitely annoying. I have been there. I stuck it out, but it was only for one night and there was no question of anyone being in the living room past like 10 p. You absolutely should have been given a heads up. Reply. When we made the plans back in January it stemmed from Josie and I seeing the event advertised and agreeing it sounded fun. She invited me to come stay with her for the weekend. Her husband would be there, obviously, but it was definitely meant to be a girls' weekend, which we do at least once a year. I presented it to Oliver that way and he told me to have fun. As far as I am aware, at some point Leo suggested inviting Shane, their college friend, which Josie told me about. She also mentioned that Sarah might be joining as well since she'd heard about the event and was interested. At no point did Josie or Leo mention Shane and Sarah would be bringing their partners or that sleeping arrangements would change. I have met Shane and Sarah maybe 3 or 4 times in the last 7 years, I don't even have their cell numbers, so I have no idea what happened between them and Josie and Leo planning-wise. I knew Sarah was married but didn't know Shane had just gotten engaged, so, I was invited by Josie for somewhat girls' weekend, and then eventually Leo invited Shane I assumed to have a guy friend / not be a third wheel, and then Sarah too. The weekend just had the vibe of a bunch of friends getting together. I 100% would have invited Oliver or asked if he could come if I knew Shane and Sarah would bring their partners. Downvoted commenter, YTA, you sound exhausting. The room is your room but you don't expect it to be yours but you're still upset that you couldn't have it. Here's a rent-free place to lay your head at night that doesn't have all the incredible amenities you've come to expect by virtue of how spoiled you've lived your entire life. What counts as an affordable hotel? The prices that local establishments were asking should have alerted you to exactly what the cost of a room in the area for a weekend actually costs. But you expected a free room while dictating who can and cannot stay in a house you don't own. Then you worked yourself up into a further frenzy by entering an echo chamber with your significant other instead of just talking to your hosts about your disappointments. Your partner being left out could very easily have been a simple oversight. It is not necessarily a direct reflection of how your friends think of you or him. This whole issue could have been resolved with either a simple conversation, before you chose to abruptly leave, or by you taking initiative to secure lodging that met your expectations independent of your friend's generosity. Get your head out of your ass and act like the grown-up you're claiming to be. Reply, the reason I mentioned my room is only because it had been established that I'd be staying there early on in the planning. I know I am not entitled to the room, it is their house, and I would not have had any problem not staying in that room. I also would not have had a problem getting a hotel if I had been informed of the sleeping arrangements beforehand. At the point of me finding out, Thursday afternoon, a large majority of the hotels in the area had been booked for the festival and the rooms I could find were at least twice the price they normally were and no hotel I called had consecutive availability for the weekend. I am sure this is the same problem Sarah and her husband ran into when they tried to book. Update. I waited until the weekend to call Josie because I thought we could both use the time to cool off and think about the situation. I spent a few days parsing through your comments. When we finally got on the phone, she was instantly apologetic for how the previous weekend went, but before we went further into the convo I asked her to explain how we ended up where we did. So here are the events as she told it. Her and I made plans in January for me to come visit for this festival. Her husband, Leo, was only interested in like one day's events and wasn't planning on attending with us the rest of the time, so it was mainly a girls' weekend for us. Sometime in March, Leo mentioned the weekend to Shane, his college friend, who showed interest. Josie said it was Leo's idea to invite Shane so he'd have someone to hang out with while her and I were busy with our plans. Josie and Leo told me at this point that Shane would be there for the weekend, too. And then I guess a couple of days after that, Sarah, in the same college friend group, heard about the event from Shane and her husband decided to go as well. Josie at this point told me that their friend Sarah would also be in town for the festival. She did not tell me Sarah was planning on staying at their house because they had originally planned on getting a hotel. Somewhere between Shane being added and the festival weekend, Shane proposed to his now fiance and then requested she be added to the trip. The Monday before the trip, Sarah and her husband called that they couldn't find an affordable hotel and asked if they could stay with Josie and Leo. When I asked Josie why she didn't just update me on the plans, she said she was feeling overwhelmed by all of the changes and worried that if I knew I'd be now sleeping on the couch, I wouldn't come. She claimed that her and Leo looked for hotels for me but also couldn't find anything affordable. She said she felt bad, she understood why I left but she wished that I hadn't, and that she spent the entire weekend feeling awful. So, she did apologize and I also apologized for leaving abruptly without talking it out. I also felt very overwhelmed by the situation, especially because I barely know Shane and Sarah, let alone their partners. That's the simplified version of that problem. Now, I also asked why they hadn't thought to invite Oliver. I said that I understood plans changed pretty fast but there was a decent chunk of time where she knew all the couples would at least be at the festival, and she could have at least extended the invite. I said I wasn't buying the excuse that they forgot, especially since she just explained she was kind of purposefully keeping me in the dark in the hopes I wouldn't cancel. Josie admitted that the last time all 4 of us were together, which was last September, Oliver made a pass at Leo that made Leo really uncomfortable. It was a night we had all been out drinking and according to Leo, somehow the conversation got around to the topic of Oliver's sexuality. he's bi, and Leo made a comment about never having any sexual interaction men, to which Oliver responded, well, if you ever want to change that, let me know. I got off the phone to talk to Oliver. I know that he would never cheat on me and that he probably meant it as a joke. Oliver said he remembered the night and said it was just a joke because he could tell Leo was uncomfortable with Oliver's past dating men, and that he didn't think Leo took him seriously. He offered to call Leo and smooth it over himself, but I told him to hold off because I didn't want to make the situation worse. I just told Josie privately that Oliver didn't mean to make Leo uncomfortable and that he was sorry, and she said she'd tell Leo that. So, Josie and I are okay, even if things are still a little tense. I genuinely don't know what to do about the Leo/Oliver situation other than let it smooth over with time. I only see Josie 3 to 4 times a year and Oliver sees them maybe 1 to 2 times a year, so hopefully the next time we all want to do something it can just be forgotten. Top comments. Commenter 1, the Monday before the trip, Sarah and her husband called that they couldn't find an affordable hotel and asked if they could stay with Josie and Leo. Josie needs to learn how to tell other people no. She should have told them there was no more room available unless they wanted to sleep on the couch. Commenter 2, she's not your friend though. She purposely didn't tell you about the changes and thought you'd just stick it out. She also didn't talk to you about the situation between the guys. If she truly thought your BF was trying to cheat with her partner, why wouldn't she tell you that? She let you waste time and money going there. She's a jerk and I'm glad she spent the weekend feeling terrible. What she did was shitty. I hope you rethink this friendship. Commenter 3, yeah, this isn't nearly enough. This trip was you and her. How did you get thrown on the couch and people who signed up last minute and couldn't get a hotel got your room? That is the part that she hasn't explained. Why are you saying yes to all these people and telling them they have rooms when we don't? Why did you give away my room? That's where she failed you. It's very easy to say, I'm sorry you guys can't find a hotel. You're more than welcome to crash with us, but all the rooms/beds are accounted for. If you still want to come, you'll have the couch and the floor only. Maybe you can bring an air mattress. If you want to skip the trip over not getting the hotel, we'll understand. Your friend put every single one of these other friends before you. She relegated you the couch without even speaking to you, and hid the couch thing until you showed up so you wouldn't cancel. It's not okay. Her explanation doesn't explain why you get treated like a second-class citizen but all these other people are prioritized. Honestly, I would be taking some distance from this friendship in the future. You are not as important to her as she is to you, and she just showed you that. I would let it go. I would let there be a little distance. If she contacts you the future about hanging out, you make sure before agreeing that 1. It includes your partner, and 2. You have confirmed space/privacy or you make your own hotel reservations, stop sharing a place with her. Stories number 11. Entitled friend of wife wants me to fire someone to hire her, then sabotages a different job interview because it's beneath her. This one went from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. First, some backstory. I own a small business and our team are absolute rock stars. These are good people who could walk away at any time and land another job in minutes. We survived the pandemic that must not be named on Reddit with no layoffs, no reduction in pay, except for me, and transitioned to a 100% work at home which remains in place. The savings we enjoyed by not renewing our lease actually helped us out a lot. We've worked together for a long time, with the least senior person being with us 7 years. A friend of my wife, I'll call her Stacy, is a complainer. She's one of those people who aren't happy unless they're not happy. My ever-patient wife, as demonstrated by putting up with me for 30 years, does her best to cheer her up. Last December Stacy put in a vacation request for the week Christmas. A week before Christmas. When everybody else had already put in their request and was approved. Her request was denied, and she thought she would leverage the situation by quitting, only to discover they processed her voluntary termination after she went home. It's now May and she's been out of work. She and other friends were visiting last Sunday for one of my wife's wine and crafts nights among her friends. Making small talk in the kitchen, I asked how her job search was going and she said it was going poorly. Then she asked me for a job. I didn't mind the ask. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. However, we're not hiring right now and I told her as much. Then said, you know I'm a hard worker, I actually don't, why not fire someone and hire me? It took me a second to process this before I explained our staff has been together for almost a decade, and I can't do that, to which she replied, you're the owner, you can do anything you want. No. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek's, Leaders Eat Last. A bullshit move like that would destroy the trust of the team. I apologized and made a quick exit before the conversation could continue. On Monday I happened to be on the phone with another small business owner in town, I'll call him Bob, who said he was down a couple people. I remembered Stacy's request. I told Bob what little I know about her work life and he said to have her call. I told my wife who passed it along to Stacy. Fast forward to today, Bob calls me. He led with, "How well do you know Stacy?" I was a little nervous, not looking to vouch for her, but also not wanting to torpedo her opportunity, so gave the best non-answer answer I could come up with. Bob then burst into laughter, explaining that his interview with Stacy lasted less than 45 minutes because she kept trying to interview not for the job he had available, but for other positions he already has filled. I apologized and things are okay with Bob and I, but holy crap did this go south quickly. Stories number 12. Aita for telling my stepsister if I was her real mom I'd be so disgusted that she replaced me. Me and my stepsister are both 16. We've been stepsisters since we were 7. My mom married her dad then. And they got married after my dad and her mom died. We lost them when we were 5 and my mom and her dad met at a widowed people support group. My stepsister and I feel different about being a blended family and we don't feel the same about her stepparent. From the jump she was happy to have my mom around and she called her mom before my mom and her dad were even married. She said her dead mom was her first mom and mom is the person she calls just mom now. I cried for days after I first met her dad and realized my mom was dating him. I never wanted to call him dad and I never do. Not even one time. I only have one dad and he's dead. And I'd be happy if my stepsister's dad focused on his own kids and left me alone. My relationship with my stepfather is okay for the most part. It hurts him that I can't accept him the way his daughter accepted my mom. But we don't fight. Not like me and my stepsister do. My stepsister has always said she doesn't understand why I want to ruin our family. She's called me heartless more times than I could count up. When we were 13 she was grounded for a month for telling me if I was so dead inside that I couldn't love our family then I should just go be with my dad. She said it to me again last year. I didn't tell my mom about it or my stepfather. I didn't see the point. I've been mean or rude right back. Sometimes I've even said stuff without her bothering me. There were times she wanted to bond as sisters and I told her I didn't want her or like her and to go away. I've called her annoying and I said she sucks the fun out of stuff. She does that to me sometimes. Mostly when I'm having fun with friends. She'll get mad that I'm having happy and tell me it's sick that I can be happier with friends than with our family. Or if she sees me hugging or being close with my friends she'll tell me I never hug her or her dad and she'll complain about it and call me names. I hate it when she does that. I know she's jealous because she knows I don't love her. I don't like her either. I think she loves me but dislikes me. Which makes things more intense. Our half-siblings are another fight between us. I'm closer to them and they seek me out more than her and it hurts her feelings and makes her mad at me because she's accepted everyone as family and considers us one family while I don't, but I do accept my half-siblings. And I even love them. We've always had fights before. Fighting between us is not uncommon and we even fought for 2 years in family therapy. We made no progress and the therapist was not able to fix us like my mom and stepfather wanted. But we had a fight last week that was kind of different and my mom is coming down super hard on me for what I said and my stepsister's getting a pass. Father's Day was being talked about and my half-brother asked to see what I got for my dad's grave. My stepsister lost her mind and started yelling at me about how I don't appreciate her dad like that and how I let mom get something from me to him. How I didn't even want her dad to get something from me on Father's Day and I'd only make a kind of effort on Stepfamily Day, which is a US thing that isn't that well known about. She told me that my dad would be so disappointed and ashamed of me treating my real dad like that and dad would know that he wasn't around to be my real dad and her dad had more than earned that title or place. Then she told me that if there was an afterlife that I'd never see my dad again and that I'd end up alone because I deserved to be. I didn't hold back. I told her to go fuck herself and then I told her if I was her real mom I'd be disgusted that she replaced me and I'd make sure she never got the peace of mind of knowing I was okay with it. I told her she had no loyalty to her real mom and I thought it was sick and that she saw people as easily replaced and at least I give a crap about my real family. My stepsister left the kitchen which is where the fight happened. She went up to her room and she cried and she's still upset. She withdrew and was different all week. Even teachers noticed. My mom told me I had no reason to be so cruel and how could I go so low in that fight. I argued that she was the one who went that far first. Mom told me what I said was worse and so unfair when my stepsister was a good enough kid to love and accept and open her heart to everyone. Which made me and mom fight because I told her she didn't have to keep me here if she felt I was that bad. That only made my mom angrier. Stories number 13. Wipta for cancelling my vow renewal ceremony and going more private. I, 35F, and my husband, 35M, were teens when we met. We were planning a wedding and at 19 years old I became pregnant. At the time, we lived with my dad and he threatened to kick us out if we didn't get married ASAP. This is after I bought the dress and all that, but it was still a courthouse wedding. We are coming up on our 15 years married this year and I wanted to have a little event at our new property to celebrate it. I announced that we were planning for Halloween, we are goth/witchy, back in January. My sister, 30F, and her husband had their vow renewal last weekend, 3 years married. It was beautiful and sweet, I'm happy for her. However, she has assumed the role of wedding planner for my vow renewal. So far she has suggested I change the date to something more suitable for our dad. My dad and his wife moved 3 hours away where it snows all the time. She suggested I use her house for the venue, and even sending me dresses she thinks I should wear. She has told me this isn't about you, it's about being considerate of others. Me in all my stubborn glory said, you know what, you're right, it's not about me, it's about dad, so I'll just do something more private and intimate with 2 close friends instead. Now, the idea of going somewhere random into the woods with 2 to 3 friends, getting all dressed up and doing a small ceremony sounds amazing and less drama. So, whipta if I cancelled it all and had the fall Halloween theme in the woods without telling anyone else. Stories number 14. Aita for breaking up with my girlfriend because she slept with someone after saying I love you. I was close friends with my girlfriend for a few years. Recently, she asked me out, which was weird cause I don't think she ever saw me that way. She actually confessed that she was actually in love with me for a while now. I'll be honest, I don't care if this was the right move, but I told her I felt the same. Some dates later, things were going good, until she had the exclusivity talk. I asked wait, we weren't exclusive. And she said we never talked about it. She told me she loved me, that's as exclusive as you can get without saying it. I asked her if she's been seeing anyone or sleeping with anyone while dating me, she confessed that she did sleep with Ons. I told her she's insane, and told her we were done. She tried to apologize and say she didn't think we were exclusive. I told her she's just using that as an excuse. Aita. Am I just so far removed from dating to think saying I love you should imply exclusivity? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. How can you love someone and still fuck someone else? Person facepalming. Commenter 2. This is one of those girls that would say but it didn't mean anything. Reply, that's actually exactly what she said. Commenter 3. NTA. My god. That is just weird AF. In love for a long time, she finally got the guy and then an ONS with someone else. I really wonder what dimension she came from, but it's not a normal one. Yeah, so big fat NTA. Reply, it's calming to see this is the top comment so far. Thank you. Commenter, YTA, if there was no direct discussion of exclusivity, how could she know if you were exclusive or not? I think this is different between different groups of people. However, in my own social circles, the exclusivity talk is the only thing that separates a relationship from a FWB or just someone that someone is seeing. If she's loved you for a long time, then it's more a confession of how she's been feeling for a while, where she may have been sleeping with other people, so to her, that declaration wouldn't have meant exclusivity, as it's not like you've fallen in love through dating. She was already in love with you. Reply, it's not like you've fallen in love through dating. She was already in love with you, and this makes it better how? The exclusivity talk is the only thing that separates a relationship from a FWB or just someone that someone is seeing. So I could ask her to move in with me, marry me, buy a house, have kids, but as long as I don't say exclusive I'm free to fuck someone else. Commenter 2, honestly I might hang on to this relationship if I were you. If she wants to be exclusive with you and you want to be exclusive with her, then why not be? It's easy to make decisions in the heat of the moment that we regret later. If you find this to be one of them after you've had a chance to cool down, don't be too proud to open a dialogue with her and see if there's a way to make it work. If you don't regret your decision though and you just really don't want anything to do with her anymore, then by all means stick to your guns. You're NTA if you choose the latter, but you're not a simp if you choose the former. Reddit threads are always biased hugely in favor of relationship endings, so just wanted to put it out there that if you do want to continue the relationship it's okay. And if you don't, that's okay too. Reply, no, I don't want to be with her. I don't want to be with someone who can love me and turn around and fuck someone else like it's nothing. Update. So thank you all for your comments. So I ran into my now ex, we still share a friend group. She tried to talk to me, and I did hear her out. Nothing she said changed my mind. She apologized, said she misunderstood, and that she loves me and regrets what she did. I told her thanks, but it's too late now. She hurt me, and I don't think I can trust her. I told her I need some space from her. So yeah, that's pretty much how it went. Something I learned, is that the whole exclusive thing is weird. I find it really sad that some of you want to live life on technicalities. I am really curious how long you would be willing to do this. How many months would you be okay with? Also, she could have brought up before she slept with anyone. Honestly, this is partly why I don't think I can trust her. I believe she was banking on being technically okay. Sadly, I'm not built like that. You can lawyer my emotions all you want, but I'm not gonna deal with bullshit like that just because of technicalities. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, she's still lying to you. She found a guy more attractive and had no strings attached sex with him. You weren't as attractive, but you were the type she could see herself settling down with, so she made you wait to ensure commitment. Reply, maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter. Even assuming the absolute best that is was a genuine mistake, I don't want to be with her. So it really doesn't matter. Commenter 2, just for clarity, when you had that first talk about exclusivity, was she really surprised when you told her it's over? I just would be interested in her first reaction. And then when you left out of her door? Reply, she was more scared. She seemed like someone who just got caught doing something wrong. Commenter 3, if you love someone you're not banging other dudes after your dates. Commenter 4, such a bizarre thing to do. I've been in love with you for a long time, finally gets a chance to get with you. Goes and bangs someone else. WTF. Stories number 15. Aita for not letting my bio dad and his wife adopt me and refusing to comply with family therapy. There's a lot of background, but I'll condense it down for everyone and make it easy to follow. My bio dad walked out when I was a few months old. He and my mom weren't married and the three of us had lived with bio dad's parents. After bio dad walked out, me and mom continued living with them. My mom died when I was 3. Before she died, she had my grandparents adopt me. She got my bio dad to sign off on it, which he did, and my aunts and uncles said he was happy to do it. Grandpa died when I was 9 and my grandma when I was 13. Grandma tried to get him to take some interest in me after grandpa died, but he didn't. I lived with my uncle for a few months until my bio dad fought for custody and won. I didn't know my bio dad at that point. The only time I saw him was at grandpa and then grandma's funerals. I was almost 14 when I sent to live with my bio dad and his family. I'm 17 now. I didn't want to live with my bio dad. I wanted to live with my uncle or any of my aunts and uncles. I know them, grew up with them, they were in my life this whole time. But bio dad being bio dad won out with a judge who dismissed everything my therapist said. Now that I'm here, I'm pretty angry at him for pulling me away from everyone I know and love. Even 3 years later, I'm still angry at him. He's married and has 5 kids under 10. All of them have tried to get me to give in and become a part of their family, but I'm not willing to do that. So my bio dad and his wife decided the 3 of us need family therapy. They also wanted me to give my consent to them adopting me. Bio dad tried to adopt me when he got custody, but the judge did listen to me on that. And I refused to give my consent. I sit in therapy every week and I don't engage. We've cycled through about 7 therapists in 2 years and they're trying to find someone who can make me engage. They're also giving me more shit for refusing the adoption. Some of bio dad's kids ask me to please be their brother and be adopted and be family. I always tell them their parents are not mine and I don't belong in this family. That I belong with my family. It upsets them. Which angers bio dad and wife. But I won't give in just for random kids. My uncle tried to fight for custody again a few months ago, but again my wishes were dismissed. I told my bio dad if he let me go I might not hate him and his whole family. He told me he wants me to embrace the family, not move away and never see them again. My dad's wife's parents are at their house all the time. They started to scold me over rejecting the adoption and not participating in therapy. I told them to mind their own business a few times. Bio dad told me it was unacceptable and I needed to stop being this way. He told me he's my real dad and him adopting me corrects a mistake that was made. I told him I'll never let it happen. The therapist we're currently in sessions with is also pushing me to accept the adoption even though I don't engage. I'm so sick of this and I've got a countdown going for my 18th birthday when my uncle comes to get me. But AITA for being so stubborn with my positions. Stories number 16. My 20F boyfriend, 22M, keeps pushing a firm boundary I've made about my dog. How can I reiterate that I'm not bugging on this? I, 20F, and my boyfriend, 22M, are almost a year and a half into our relationship. This is both of our first serious relationships, so we're both figuring this out together. We both have our own dogs. I got my dog Lucky, a year and a half old mini dachshund, shortly after we started dating. My boyfriend just got his French bulldog, about the same age as Lucky, a couple days ago. Now if you know anything about dachshunds you know their backs are very very fragile. They need ramps to go up and down couches, beds, etc. to avoid back injuries, which can be very serious with them. Stairs are an absolute no-go. That is a hill I will die on. I'm ashamed to say that I was not as educated with my previous dachshund, and he paid the price for that. I swore once I was ready and got another dachshund I would give them the best chance to have a happy, healthy, long, and pain-free life. I've been talking about buying a ramp for my boyfriend's house, specifically his bedroom because his bed is very tall. My boyfriend said just wait until he gets his dog and he'll buy one since it's going in his house. It said fine and waited. Now that the time has come to actually get one, he started talking about buying stairs. Tonight when we were sitting down with his parents, his mom brought up the stairs and asked when he was going to buy them. It's also important to note that I've explained to both my boyfriend and his parents why I do not want stairs, and why it's not the safest option. His parents refused to listen to me. When I looked at him he said I can't afford it. Which is fine. I'll save up and buy them or we can split the cost. When I asked him about it later he just said it's cheaper. I said it might be cheaper but it's not safer for him. He told me I was pulling strings. At that response, this is not the first time we've had this conversation. We had it multiple times and I thought he finally understood, but I guess not. We've also not had our first fight yet, and I just know if I can't get us to see eye to eye it's going to turn into a full-blown argument over something as stupid as a ramp. This is not something I'm willing to budge on. I just don't know what else I can do other than shove an article in his face on dachshunds and their spines and why stairs aren't safe to get him to finally understand. I'm so frustrated beyond words and I just feel so defeated. Edit, since some people are ripping me in the comments about getting a dachshund. My dog is a rescue. I did not get him from a breeder. There are full-blooded dogs that are in rescues and shelters that need homes too. Hell, there is a rescue specifically for dachshunds and bulldogs. I was not going to get a dachshund originally, but I found him on his rescue website and fell in love. The rest is history. As for my boyfriend and his dog, I can't speak for him. I warned him about the health risks Frenchies have and he said he can handle it. Relevant comments. OOP responds to a comment regarding her dog's background before she got him. Reply, my dog is actually from a rescue and was rehomed. Just because we like our breed doesn't mean they aren't rescued. And that is a very arrogant response. There are plenty of animals in a shelter that I would gladly take that are disabled that also can't walk upstairs because they're truly disabled. My dog can walk upstairs just fine, it's going down is where he can get injured. Please do your research before you say something. Commenter 1, sorry, why does the dog have to have a ramp for the boyfriend's bed? He can't just have a dog bed on the floor. Or stay home with the mom. Reply, he's been getting on my boyfriend's bed since I got him, and yes, I asked if it was okay first before I put him up. He needs the ramp because my boyfriend's bed is very high and jump off the bed causes a lot of impact on his spine and can cause injury. I was going to buy ramp but he told me no, that he would buy it. It's my dog, and it's not my parents' responsibility to watch him, which is why I bring him. However, he has been staying home recently until both my boyfriend and I are ready to introduce to the two dogs together. Commenter 2, franchise are also prone to IVDD, so not only is the ramp better for your dog, but his as well. Your BF is kinda dumb and obviously didn't do any research before getting a franchise. If he can't afford the ramp, how is he eventually going to afford all the vet bills that come with that genetic fuck-up of a dog? Reply, I did not know this. I'm going to bring this up to him lol get today because I don't think he does either. OOP on what her doxy's true origin is. Reply, I really truly don't know the true origin of my doxy. He was a rescue. His previous owners put him on Craigslist as a pup before his rescue got a hold of him. I assumed he came from a breeder, but I don't know if it was a good one or not. Commenter 3, okay, I know you want to believe that you can make him understand, because he's acting like he doesn't get it, but he does. He knows because you've told him. He just doesn't care. Update. I'm not sure if anyone wants this update, but I'm putting it out here. So me and my boyfriend talked. I brought up the ramp again a few nights ago after I read through comments and took it all in. I once again explained it to him. I told him all about IVDD and how dangerous it is for dachshunds and Frenchies because I realized I never used the actual term before, my fault. It was mainly about the money. After he took his Frenchie to the vet for his first appointment the other day, we found out he needs a minor surgery, as well as several antibiotics among a few other things that were quite expensive. Because of those things, the vet told us his Frenchie most likely lived his life outside until my boyfriend got him. Very upsetting, but he is living his best pampered life indoors now. I was found on Amazon some squishy stairs that are pretty much a ramp that I was comfortable having the dogs use short term until we could get a better ramp later on. However, my boyfriend said no. You wanted a ramp. We're gonna get a ramp. So he did some digging and found used ramp in really good shape for like $20, and it's the perfect height. I was either just going to buy a new ramp or the squishy stairs, but he ended up finding the used ramp and surprised me with it later that day. His Frenchie is having the time of his life having the ramp zooms, and it's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. As for my dachshund, he has not been able to use it yet. We've only done one public meeting with the dogs so far and it went pretty good. Once the dogs get more comfortable with each other, then I'll bring my dachshund to my boyfriend's house and he'll bring his Frenchie to my house, but for now we're only doing public meetings with the dogs. Relevant comments. Does OOP has a ramp at her place for her dog? And getting one for her BF's house. Reply, I do have on at my house. Which is why I was happy it pay for it because it was my dog that needed it originally. Commenter 1, this was never a boundary because you never enacted any consequences of not meeting the need. Like everyone said, now that it's his need it's been met. This is not a W. Reply, that's definitely clear to me now. I need to be better about setting because it did not go how I wanted it to. But I am still learning. What kind of infection was the Frenchie having? Reply, he has some sort of minor eye infection, a good bit of heartworms, and pretty bad stomach problems. If he eats the wrong thing he can't keep his food down, so he's on a strict diet right now. I don't remember exactly what everything was, I wasn't at the appointment with him. Other than that he's perfectly healthy. Plus he really letting his personality shine now. You wouldn't believe how much sass that little body has. Commenter 2, OMG, if he has heartworm he is not healthy. Treatment is expensive when done correctly, can be deadly when not done. Reply, I misheard him. His Frenchie has hookworms. That is my fault. Commenter 3, he insisted on a dog breed that has expensive medical needs. He was intransigent on getting the dog ramp because it was too expensive when it was something you needed but immediately went into problem-solving mode when it was something he needed for his dog. Glad he came around but he's waving a few red flags. Stories number 17. AITB for leaving up a swing for my brother. My brother is 27. He's autistic and he stays with me due to that and some other pretty severe medical conditions. I am his legal caretaker. He has this hammock swing out back that he goes out and swings on almost every day unless it's raining, then he has a rocking chair in his sensory room. That's his routine and he's done that for as long as we can remember. This lady next door just moved in about 2 weeks ago and has been giving me hell about this swing because it's on the tree by the fence and my brother sometimes will push against the fence to make the swing go. She wants me to take it down because it's the only tree in my backyard. I keep telling her no, it's in my backyard, that is his swing, that it's not her business. She even went as far as calling the cops on me about this swing. Thankfully after explaining my situation they understood and just told my brother to make sure he doesn't hit the fence. We agreed to that. Yesterday when my brother went out to swing again she stopped him and threatened to call the cops again if he got on that swing. I told him don't listen to her, get on it, it's okay. He gets on it and she sprayed him right in the face with her hose. Told him he's a grown man, he's too old for swings. I told her to get her sorry ass out of my sight before I called the cops. She just walked away. Am I in the wrong here? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA, but, can you build something in between the fence and the swing so he pushes off of that and not the fence? For example, plant a pole where he can push off from. Or maybe a small segment of fence. Maybe in a color he enjoys. Also, I agree with the others to just call the cops each and every time she harasses or attacks you or him. Yes, hosing him is an attack. Reply, for example, plant a pole where he can push off from. Or maybe a small segment of fence. Maybe in a color he enjoys. This is not a bad idea. He really likes neon green and blue, I will definitely do that for him. Also, I agree with the others to just call the cops each and every time she harasses or attacks you or him. Yes, hosing him is an attack. I'm going to, and I also like everyone's suggestions with the cameras. I will be getting those too. I just hope he doesn't develop a fear of hoses after that attack. He had just gotten over his fear of water with the pool last summer. Commenter 2, how can she interact with him? Through a fence. Get a fence that's as high as your region allows it. What goes on your side of the fence is none of her GD business. If your brother decides to run around but naked in your yard, he can, and she can STF you about it. Call the cops about her hosing down your brother. Ask them to tell her to back off, and keep it civil. This will only escalate if no one tells her how it is. You're a good sibling. Reply, how can she interact with him? Through a fence. Yes, I do want to build it higher. You're a good sibling. Thanks so much. I love my brother. I have been helping take care of him since I was 10 years old. He's been through a lot medically. Doctors said he wouldn't make it past 15 years old, here he is 27 and a half, will be 28 in October. He's a trooper and a true miracle. I only took him in so he can have at least some sense of independence. It's not easy but so worth it. Our relationship is tight and the love and hugs he gives me makes everything worth it. Update. First off, I want to thank each and every one of you for all your suggestions and ideas and even the love and support for me and my brother in my previous post. You guys are all very sweet. I gotta say, I got some of the sweetest comments I've ever had on a post, especially from this sub. Now for the update you all have been waiting for. As many of you suggested, I did call the cops back over and there is currently an ongoing investigation for the neighbor. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to say too much more on that right now for legal reasons, but I will update more on that when I can. As for the swing, I went with a mixture of y'all's suggestions. I went to my local hardware store after work today and I bought a stand for the swing and moved it away from the fence. I also bought a 2x4 fence-like thing to put in front of the swing as a few others suggested. I had him try it out after I put it together. He was hesitant at first because change isn't really his thing, but with a little encouragement he eventually went out and tried it and loved it. He's been on it for hours and now I can't get him back inside. I told him it was from his Reddit friends. I really wish y'all could have seen the big smile he had on his face. I found one of my spare cameras in my junk drawer, so I got that and mounted it on my window facing the swing so any future encounters will be documented. I also just want to say I really appreciate all the sweet comments about my brother. They all touched my heart, especially the mama bear comments and the comments about being his friend and swinging with him. Y'all are seriously so sweet that I wish I could build a whole neighborhood and invite you all to move into it with us. It just shows that there still are some good people in this world. This is a repost sub. I am not the oop. Stories number 18. You don't want us to fill empty shelf space. Good luck selling air. Years ago, I worked for a medium-sized retailer which sold all sorts of things, from confectionery to garden supplies. The store had half an aisle near the front of the store dedicated to events, which were pretty much right in the customers' faces as they entered the store. Every few weeks, these event shelves would change over to a new department, or be themed to any upcoming holidays or special days, such as Mother's Day or Halloween. Usually for these events, we would get the stock delivered the week before, and spend that week taking out the old stock and replacing it with the new lines. If a new line was missing from the delivery, we'd go and find a different line that would fit into that event from elsewhere in the store. One day in early April, we received an email from upper management. Do not replace missing event lines with any other lines. We emailed back to clarify, because of course, nearly every event delivery is missing at least one line. Do they want us to spread other items out to fill the empty space, or what? Just leave the space for any missing lines empty. It will look like they have sold out. Barely a month later, while preparing for the Mother's Day event, have we received our regular delivery, with no Mother's Day event lines, not one. So we email upper management to let them know that we haven't received any of the event lines. They will come on your next delivery. Do not fill empty space. Well, they did not arrive on the next delivery either. We emailed them again, informing them that we had still not received any event lines, and heard nothing back, so we decided to do exactly what they asked. We cleared out the old event lines, and left the entire event section completely empty, for the entire 3-week period leading up until Mother's Day. After Mother's Day, during a conference call, a group call between upper management and all the store managers for the region, they asked us why we had 0 sales for the event lines, and why our sales for the period had dropped significantly. We just referred them back to other previous emails where we told them that we never received the delivery, and they had said not to fill missing lines. Cue the most deliciously sweet awkward silence. After the call, one more email was sent out to everyone. Please use your best judgment when filling missing lines for events. Stories number 19. Neighbors sent us a cease and desist letter for no trespassing signs. We have a very passive-aggressive and entitled neighbor that we've been having issues with for the 7 years we've lived in our house. Our yards face each other and are separated by a 6-foot wooden fence. He calls the 911 on us for everything. If we use our fire pit at all, he calls and reports a fire. If we have friends out in the yard or music playing, he calls for noise. Every time the police come, they agree with us that he is being a jerk because we aren't doing anything wrong. Recently he's gotten especially brazen and actually entered our yard while we weren't home and moved a ladder that we had against our fence because he could see it from his yard. The fence was zip tied to the fence so it wouldn't fall over during upcoming storms, and he actually came in the yard and moved it and replaced the zip ties. This was within the same week of him calling the police on us for using the fire pit. Again, we placed no trespassing signs on poles along our fence line, but in his view from his yard, so he would get the point. Instead, he sent us a certified cease and desist letter accusing us of ruining the air quality, using the fire pit, posting threatening signs, no trespassing violators will be prosecuted, and ruining the aesthetics of his yard. Do we have a leg to stand on? I hate to just let this guy bully us around, but don't really want to go to court either. Stories number 20. Whipped for bailing on a girls' trip turned couples trip. Update, thanks for the words of validation. It turns out the trip isn't happening at all now for totally unrelated reasons, so the whole thing is moot. However, I would like to clarify some stuff. A lot of people made disparaging remarks about my friend and or their partners, and I'd just like to say, I absolutely adore everyone involved, except new BF. I don't really know him, lol. My friend's spouse is amazing, and it's also okay for them to say I was a little sad I can't spend your birthday with you. Did things change quickly to my own annoyance? Sure, but partner is not a loser or any of the other weird judgmental comments made about them in particular. More than anything though, my friendship spans years and has countless more wonderful, supportive, generous, kind, loving moments with these women than any form of negativity or animosity. This trip was the actual first time anything real issue popped up for us. I love my friends and was disappointed I wasn't getting girly time, but I'm not going to throw away a friendship over something that's frankly just kinda silly for me to be mad about even. I'm not deleting this post because I don't really care anymore, the situation is fixed and I still love my friends. The end. So my best friend decided for her birthday she wanted a girls' trip, we've booked a cabin and got bathing suits and budgeted for food and stuff. The whole idea was it was gonna be just us girls, Beastie, me, our other mutual Beastie. We've been planning this girls' trip for months. At some point during the final planning over the last 2 weeks, Beastie's husband expressed his feelings, were a little hurt that he wasn't invited. So now the husband is coming. She also invited mutual Beastie's new BF, so now it's 2 couples going and me. Note, I'm a lesbian and my partner is working abroad for the summer and all my other friends are busy, so I don't have anybody to bring with me. I'm kind of sad/annoyed because this girls' trip has turned into a couples trip, and the cabin we rented only has 2 bedrooms, so I'm going to be the odd one out sleeping on an air mattress. Whipta if I bailed on this trip. I don't want a refund for my part in the cabin rental or gas money. I just really don't want to be the 5th wheel, sleeping alone in the living room while the couples cuddle and fuck, and I don't want to be the one lagging behind while the happy couples hold hands and stuff. I know a part of this is due to my jealousy that my partner's not here and theirs are. But I'm also just really upset that this is supposed to be a girls' trip, now it's turned into a couples trip and me. Stories number 21. My friend used my infertility to surprise announce her pregnancy at my own baby shower. So yeah. The title doesn't even begin to explain the emotional wreckage of this weekend. I, 34F, spent 4 years doing IVF, crying over negative tests, and trying to accept I might never be a mom. Miraculously, I am now 28 weeks pregnant with a healthy baby girl after an embryo transfer that felt like a last chance. My best friend Anna, 36F, helped plan my baby shower. She struggled with infertility too, so we bonded a lot over it. I had no idea she was trying again recently. Cut to the shower. I'm opening presents and giving a thank you speech, and Anna steps up to say a few words. She pulls out a onesie and holds it up. We're due just a week apart. Applause. Screaming. Everyone is crying, except me. I smiled and clapped. But inside, I was screaming. This was the one day in 4 years where I was allowed to celebrate. No baby loss. No failed cycles. Just joy. She took it. Later, I told her that I wished she had waited. She said she wanted to share the joy together and that I was being unfair. That if the roles were reversed, she'd be thrilled for me. I haven't replied since. But I can't stop wondering, was I wrong for being upset? Or was this really just a sweet moment I took the wrong way? Stories number 22. My lady went to a party I didn't agree with. The past 3 days she's come home at 3 to 4 a.m. from the bar, with her friend, female. We've been together for years. She asked me today if it would be alright if she went to the party at some guy's house that her friend will be hooking up with. She said the guy and his friends will be there, and 2 of her friends. I don't know any of the guys, but her 2 friends are very sleazy. I have work in the AM, so me going out was not an option. I told her I was uncomfortable with her going out to the guy's house and his friends there, without me there. She then threw a fit, broke up with me, and left the house. I texted her hours later about 11 p.m. and told her I hoped the party was worth it. She said she hasn't even gotten to the party yet. What to do? Should I just accept that she's leaving? Should I move on or should I try to work this out? For more context, it's not that I don't trust her, I just don't trust a group of men that I do not know. Especially around drunk women. Advice needed. Stories number 23. I, 29F, can't get over the fact that my boyfriend, 31M, comforted his ex-wife, 28F, while I was going through the aftermath of an abortion. A while ago, I had an abortion. It was physically and emotionally draining, and I really needed support, especially from my boyfriend. At the same time, his ex-wife, yes, ex-wife, was threatening to take her own life, and he ended up putting all his focus on her. He was constantly on the phone with her, checking in, reassuring her. I understand that a suicide threat is serious and I don't want to sound cold, I genuinely get that it was a tough situation, but I felt completely abandoned. I was going through one of the most difficult things I've ever experienced, and he wasn't there for me emotionally. I felt invisible. He seemed to forget I was grieving too, and instead, he gave all his emotional bandwidth to someone from his past. I've tried to bring it up with him since, but I can't shake the feeling that I was put second in a moment when I needed to be first. I don't know how to move forward. Part of me wants to forgive him, but another part of me is still deeply hurt and resentful. Has anyone been through something similar? How did you deal with it? Update, he doesn't have any kids. Yes, it was our baby, and we both made the decision to go through with the abortion for personal reasons, which I won't get into here. I don't think he told his ex directly, but he did tell his friend, who, to be honest, isn't exactly my biggest fan. She's actually told him she does not like me, so it's possible she's the one who said something. That's a whole other story. Stories number 24. My daughter is apparently going to be a future member. My wife told her to stop putting stickers all over the house, and she should only put stickers on paper. My daughter argued with her, but my wife was just done picking stickers up all over the house, especially the kitchen, so it wasn't going anywhere. An hour or so later I walk into the kitchen and see stickers on post-it notes, and the post-it notes were stuck all over the refrigerator. She was so proud of herself it was hilarious. Edit, to add some context. She was 3, almost 4 when this happened. It happened 4 years ago. It popped up in my Facebook feed. We also didn't have an issue with our kids putting stickers up, but she had emptied a sticker book like 3 days in a row, so it was getting old. My wife and I both thought it was hilarious. My wife got a picture of her next to her work with the biggest shit-eating grin you can imagine. I showed her the pic today. She's almost 8 and she cracked up saying that sounds like someone she would have done. Stories number 25. Aita for not wanting to invite my cousin to my wedding because of a prank she pulled 3 years ago. So I, 29F, am getting married next spring and starting to put together the guest list. My mom is pressuring me to invite my cousin, 32F, who I haven't really spoken to since a prank she pulled at a family barbecue 3 years ago. Backstory, at that barbecue, I had just started dating my now fiance. She thought it would be hilarious to tell him that I used to be married, had 2 kids, and went through a messy divorce, none of which is true. She kept it going for half an hour while I was distracted helping in the kitchen. He was super confused and awkward about it, and while we laugh now, at the time it was so uncomfortable and unnecessary. She brushed it off and said I needed to chill. Since then, I've kept my distance. She's the kind of person who always has to be the center of attention, and I just don't want any chaos on my wedding day. My mom says it's petty to hold a grudge over something so small and that she's family. But I genuinely don't trust her to behave, and I feel like my wedding should be about me and my fiancé, not someone who might pull another attention-grabbing stunt. Aita for not wanting to invite her. Stories number 26. I, 30F, lashed out at my, 31M, boyfriend after he violated a boundary during sex. Was my reaction too excessive? My boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years. Overall, our relationship has been good. We both have a history of emotionally abusive relationships where we were the ones being abused. We've talked in depth about our past, our boundaries, and our desires to not repeat those same patterns again. Neither of us are perfect, but we try our best to mitigate reactions that are rooted in past pain. We often talk of having children, but we're not financially ready for one yet. He is the kind of guy that wants to have children and would make things work if we have a child sooner than expected. I am hesitant to have children too soon because I'm still in the process of healing from my past and learning to re-regulate my nervous system. He knows this. I'm not on birth control, so I asked him to use a condom every time we have sex. But he has a tendency to get his dick wet, first without it. And each time I remind him to put on the condom, I'm not taking any chances. 2 days ago while we were having sex, I asked him to put on the condom like I always do. But he kept going. I repeatedly mentioned the condom, then he started lightly shushing me. I lay there in shock because he had never done this before. Eventually he pulls out and releases his load on my stomach. He knows I don't like the pull-out method without my consent. A lot of my triggers came to the surface as felt a boundary was crossed after he ignored me. A little later that morning I asked to talk about it, which he knew was coming. But I ended up lashing out on him, telling him how I felt violated, disrespected and taken advantage of. I reminded him of how he has done similar things in the past and how I've asked him not to do it anymore. I was so angry that I told him it was taking a lot for me to not hit him. I never touched him, just expressed everything I was feeling in that moment. He was quiet and didn't respond, so I went to my computer to cool down. When we finally had a real conversation, I was calmer and asked him why he did it. He said he wasn't thinking and was just excited to have sex. After some more talking, he recognized what he did wrong and apologized to me. But then he flipped the conversation on me and said my reaction was hostile and exhibited signs of abuse because I said I wanted to hit him in that moment. Essentially saying my reaction was excessive. He didn't like me speaking to him so angrily. It was the first time I had ever reacted that way and I felt I needed to defend myself, something I've always struggled with in the past. I'm not sorry for defending myself, but I can see how my reaction might have been too much from his perspective, considering his actions was with ill intent. We have decided not to have sex for a while. I'm now questioning myself and our relationship. Was my reaction too excessive? Stories number 27. Aita for demeaning my sister's cat. First I want to say is that I don't really consider it her cat, she just picked it out, but she doesn't feed it or do anything like that. I recently noticed the cat was very matted on his back. I let her know about it last month but nothing was done about it. I ended up buying a dematter for him and dematting him. It wasn't fun for him, and yes, I was pulling his hair. She asked me not to do it because she was going to just use scissors on his hair. I waited a couple of days for her to do it and she didn't. So I just dematted him. I tried to do it as fast as I could, and yes, I was pulling his hair, but I got rid of all the mats. And I gave him a bunch of fresh catnip after, and he watched birds out the window. And I left him alone. I let her know I removed the mats. And she asked if it pulled his hair and hurt, and I said yes some. And she started flipping out on me and wouldn't leave me alone. She told me to never do that again, and I said actually I'm going to do what I want. Don't neglect your cat, you do nothing for it, I'm gonna do what I want. And she started screaming about how I was an animal abuser. She said it's not like the mats were going to kill him and that it's just like having dreadlocks and it wasn't a big deal that he had them. Stories number 28. To fool by accidentally texting an update to my entire extended family. I've been constipated for 4 days painfully, so my girlfriend, bless her, has been checking in like she's my personal bowel coach. This morning, I finally had my moment of glory. I wanted to share my victory with her, so I sent a very enthusiastic text saying, "It's done, I pooped, God himself could not have stopped me." Then I attached a triumphant bitmoji of myself riding a unicorn. Problem, I didn't send it to my girlfriend. I sent it to the group chat labeled fam, which includes my parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, and my 83-year-old grandmother. Silence for an hour. Then my cousin replied, "Proud of you, King." TLDR, meant to text my girlfriend about finally pooping after 4 days. Send it to my entire extended family instead. Now I'm the poop guy forever. Stories number 29. My wife is going to die in the next few days. She's 35 and I love her more than anything on this earth. She's been diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer since February 2023. Every complication and problem imaginable. I don't think we've had positive news in that time. We've been in the palliative ward together, there's a pull-down bed for me, for the last 5 weeks. Her symptoms have just progressively gotten worse to the point the consultant told us today that it could be any time now that her body gives up. Her lymphatic system is blocked, so she's been filling up from the legs with fluid, it's moved up the body to the lungs. She's trying to sleep and all I can do is sit in the chair next to her listening to her cough and splutter and generally struggle to breathe. Since diagnosis all of our future plans disappeared, and I knew this day was coming at some point, and yet I feel completely unprepared. It's brutal. I'm a farmer and my instinct is to put her out of her misery because that would be humane. I feel angry that society doesn't agree. I feel angry and heartbroken and weirdly distant. If I get upset she'll get upset and that'll make her breathing worse. Sorry that this has been a stream of consciousness. I just can't speak to people face to face without breaking down, so it felt easier to type this. Thank you to anyone that read this. Fuck cancer. Stories number 30. I found a note in my son's backpack. It said, "I don't want to be here anymore." He's 9. It was crumpled in the front pocket. Probably forgot about it or thought he threw it away. I don't even know where to start. He's always been a little quiet, sweet, thoughtful, sensitive in ways that make this world hard for boys to navigate. We talk. Or I thought we did. I ask him how school was. I watch cartoons with him. We do puzzles together. I hold his hand when he gets overwhelmed, but something slipped through. Something deep enough to put those words on paper. I don't want to be here anymore. I sat in my car after he went to bed and just sobbed. The kind of cry where your chest folds in. He's just a kid and already this world has made him question his place in it. I'm getting him help. I already called a therapist. Talked to his teacher. Hugged him extra tight tonight, but I can't stop thinking about that note. What if I hadn't found it? Stories number 31. To fool by chugging street coffee like an idiot. So, I'm Vietnamese, but I've been in the US since I was 6. Just got back to Nam, feeling all nostalgic and shit. Decided to grab a milk coffee from a street vendor. Looked innocent enough, big plastic cup, tasted pretty good. Big fucking mistake, I drank the whole thing. Every last drop. Now, I've smoked weed, I've even hit Vietnamese pipe tobacco, thought I was tough. But this coffee? This shit was on another level. My heart started doing a goddamn drum solo. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I swear I was seeing sounds and hearing colors. It felt like I'd mainlined pure anxiety, ended up in the hospital, looking like a total dumbass. Pretty sure the doctors just laughed at the Americanized kid who couldn't handle his coffee. They hooked me up 2 and 4 and told me to chill the fuck out. Seriously, Vietnamese coffee ain't coffee, it's a goddamn recreational drug. Never again. My heart's still trying to escape my chest. Vietnamese coffee is fucked. TLDR, chugged street coffee, hospitalized by caffeine overdose. Stories number 32. As a kid, my violin teacher had me play for 5 hours and didn't even feed me. I've lurked on this subreddit a long time, but today is the day I shamed my violin teacher's wedding. As a kid I was very good at violin, concertmaster at all state orchestra etc. My old violin teacher had moved and a new one moved to town. She wasn't nearly as precise as my old one, more about vibes, so I didn't like her as much and felt like I was getting worse with time. I was around 12 at the time and my aunt had just gotten married and had my younger sister be a flower girl and wear a fancy dress, but I was too old and didn't get to be in the wedding party. As 12-year-old I was naturally heartbroken, I wanted to be fussed over and I did feel that old, it felt very unfair. So when my violin teacher flattered me one day that she would love if I would be a part of her wedding, I was over the moon. She wanted me to play a few songs during the ceremony and then play with a harpist she had hired over the reception. She picked out the songs and had me meet with the harpist to go over the pieces. I asked her what to wear and she just said something nice, so I picked out the nicest church dress I had. The day of the wedding arrives and it's in this old Episcopalian church and I find out that me and the harpist are up in a choir loft hidden away from view. 12 years old me was very sad I wouldn't be able to show off my dress or really be a part of it, but I was still really looking forward to the reception. The ceremony ends, we all make our way to the church's gathering hall, and the wedding planner tells me to start myself since it will take a long time for the harpist to get her harp down the elevator from the choir loft and down the hall. I start playing and I see the harpist come in and set up and the wedding planner drops her off a plate and she eats while I'm playing. Then she joins in. I kept trying to flag down the wedding planner in between songs to ask when I can get my food, but she never noticed me. There was a pause in the set for speeches but everyone was so focused on the people talking, I was afraid to make any fuss. The harpist and I resume and they start to hand out the cake. I was watching intently as piece after piece kept passing me by. I was sure my teacher would save some for me. Finally a few hours later the harpist starts to pack up and leave. I start to do the same and I look around and my teacher is gone. I don't see any leftover food or cake. I sadly text my dad to come get me. My next lesson my teacher thanked me for the wonderful music and then said, "Alrighty, let's begin shall we?" And never mentioned the wedding again. I was so hurt at the time, but it's only now I really understand how mean it was to take advantage of a kid like that. If I was talented enough to play at her wedding, she should have compensated me as such. Stories number 33. AIO for walking out of my own birthday dinner after my dad joked about my miscarriage. I, 31F, had a miscarriage 6 months ago. It was brutal. I've been slowly recovering and this was my first family gathering since it happened. We went out for my birthday dinner, and everything was fine until dessert. My dad, 60s, made a toast and joked, "Let's hope this year you can finally make us grandparents, 3rd time's the charm, right?" It was like the room froze. I felt like I'd been slapped. I got up and left. I didn't yell or cause a scene, I just walked out. Later, I texted that I didn't find it funny, and I needed space. Now my mom says I embarrassed my dad and overreacted to a joke, and my sister says I ruined the dinner by being too sensitive. But how is joking about losing a baby ever funny? Am I overreacting? Stories number 34. Aita for telling my mom she's the reason I don't want kids. Okay, so, I'm 19 and still live at home, saving for school, and my mom has this thing where she keeps hinting that I'll give her grandkids someday. Like, not even subtle. She's been saying it since I was like 16. Anyway, we were eating dinner last night me, my mom, stepdad, and my 2 younger siblings, 11 and 7, when she goes you know, when you have your own kids, you'll understand. I said, kind of laughing, I'm not having kids. She looked at me like I'd just insulted her cooking. Oh, come on you'll change your mind. You'd be such a good mom. And I said, yeah, probably because I already was one. Dead silence. My stepdad looked confused, the kids were too busy with their food, but my mom just froze. I didn't say it to be mean but I've basically been second mom to my siblings since I was 10. My mom worked a lot, and also went out a lot, and I'd be the one doing homework with them, feeding them, putting them to bed, even going to parent-teacher nights alone when she forgot. I never really had a normal teen life. I didn't go out, didn't have time for friends or hobbies. I love my siblings, but I didn't choose to be a third parent at age 12. And now that I'm finally close to having my own life, the thought of doing that all over again? Nope. Absolutely not. Later, my mom pulled me aside and told me what I said was hurtful and dramatic, and that I should be grateful for the responsibility because it made me mature. She said I embarrassed her. My stepdad thinks I owe her an apology for saying it in front of the kids, but I honestly don't feel bad. I didn't lie. I didn't scream or insult her. I just said something I've been feeling for years. Stories number 35. Aita for breaking up with my girlfriend after she refused to go on a nice date I planned because it was on a Wednesday. I 27M recently hit a small parlay win and decided to do something special for my girlfriend 25F. We have been together for almost a year and things have been good, but she always says she wants me to plan more thoughtful dates. So I booked us a reservation at this really nice restaurant she always talks about. Hard to get into. Amazing chef. I spent $800 total on the reservation. Drinks included. It was for a Wednesday night because that was the only time I could get a table. I told her it would be a surprise, and when I finally revealed the plan she looked disappointed. She said Wednesday was a bad day for her. She has work early the next morning and she would rather do something on a Friday or Saturday. She said she would rather do a multi-event thing like dinner than a show or bar hopping, and asked if I could cancel and reschedule. I explained that this was a special reservation and the timing could not be moved. Also that I could not afford to do something like this without the parlay win. She said she appreciated the gesture but still would rather do something else on a weekend. No compromise. No let's make it work. Just flat out no. That made me feel like nothing I did would ever be enough. Like it was more about the vibe than the effort. So I told her if this is how she reacts when I try to do something special then maybe we're not right for each other. And I ended it. Now my friends are saying I overreacted and I'm low-key thinking I might have. Aita for walking away over this. Stories number 36. Aita for turning my mom away when she demanded to know why I'm marrying a man almost thrice my age. I, 22F, recently got engaged to David, 56M. Yes, the age gap is huge and no, it's not a typical romantic relationship. It's not that I don't like him, we get along well, he's smart, respectful, and very kind to me. But to be upfront, this is a marriage of convenience. I'm not in love with him, and he's not in love with me either. He's gay, closeted, and in a high-level executive position in a very conservative company. If it ever came out, it could legitimately end his career. I'm not saying that's fair, but it's reality in his industry. As for me, my situation is messy. I've been drowning in debt since dropping out of college 2 years ago. I'm helping support my younger sister, and my job barely covers rent. David offered stability. He said he'd cover my debts, help with rent for my sister and mom, and basically give me a safety net in exchange for playing the part of a loving wife in public. We've both been very clear and upfront about expectations, and yes, we have a prenup and legal protections. I don't feel coerced. I feel like I made a pragmatic decision in a tough situation. We had a small engagement dinner with a few friends, and someone apparently told my mom. She showed up at my apartment unannounced 2 days ago, furious, demanding to know if I'd lost my mind, why I was selling myself to an old man, and what I was thinking. I told her that I didn't owe her a detailed explanation. She kept yelling, saying this wasn't how she raised me and that I was being used. I told her I was an adult making an adult decision, and that if she couldn't speak to me respectfully, she needed to leave. She left in tears. I get it, it's not traditional. But I've been desperate for stability, and I don't feel ashamed of doing what I need to do. It's not like I'm being abused or lied to. David and I are helping each other survive in a world that punishes people like him and leaves people like me hanging. Still, seeing my mom cry hit me hard. And now I'm wondering if I was too cold. So, Aita for turning her away and not giving her the full story. Stories number 37. My 26F, husband, 31M, decided he wants to marry my best friend. We have 2 kids together. My friend rejected him, saying she's not gonna be a homewrecker, but my husband won't stop pursuing her. How do I handle this? This is my best friend, so I trust her with my life, and I know she won't be with him because I'm not okay with it. But my husband thinks he has a chance and is still keeping the door wide open. My issue is that I have 2 twin toddlers with him, and I cannot be a single mother. Mentally, I cannot handle it. I cannot be a breadwinner and a mother. I'm dying just being a mother. And I don't know if I can get married again with 2 toddlers who would want that. But also, I know I deserve someone who wouldn't hurt me like that. He basically wants an open marriage and I don't. I don't know what to do. Update, I really appreciate all the advice. I'm feeling a lot better about leaving him. Taking steps to make sure we can be good without him. Stories number 38. My sister-in-law tried to name her baby after my late daughter. This happened a month ago, and I still haven't spoken to my brother's wife. My daughter passed away 3 years ago. She was only 7. Sudden illness. No warning. Her name was Marin. My brother, 35M, and his wife, 34F, are expecting their first baby in July. They announced at a family barbecue that they're naming her Marin Rose. I, 33F, nearly dropped my plate. I didn't even know they were considering that name. It felt like a punch in the chest. Afterwards I pulled my brother aside and said I was shocked they'd use Marin's name. His response: "We loved that name too, and we thought it would be a sweet way to honor her." "You don't own a name." I said it felt disrespectful, especially because they didn't ask me first. "My daughter's name is tied to grief and trauma for me. Hearing it constantly, as the name of another little girl, just feels like being gutted over and over." His wife messaged me later saying she was sorry I felt that way, but they're not changing the name. I haven't responded. My therapist says I'm valid for setting a boundary, but the rest of my family says I'm being selfish and claiming ownership of a name. I feel like I'm going crazy. Would you be okay with this? Stories number 39. Package thieves faces eviction. I live in a small apartment building. Most of our neighboring tenants are quiet and no issues. We all keep to ourselves and polite when we do interact. Tenants in one unit are a bit annoying. Loud till late at night, sometimes yelling/arguing. Some are guys in early 20s that often have other friends over and smoke at their back door. We just kinda ignored it. Until I had ordered package costing about $300. We never had issues with stealing packages, so I didn't think anything of having it shipped here. It was delivered and I had received a picture of the drop-off location. It was right at that tenant's back door. Mind you, I went to check as soon as I received a delivered notification, about 30 minutes after posted time. It wasn't there. I went to their door and asked them if they had seen it. They said no, but when one asked me what it was before I could even say another tenant there let slip what it was. I acted like I believed them and left. I called the cops because it was obvious they had it. Thankfully the cops got it back for me. I think I might have scared the tenants a bit thinking I wasn't going to do anything. I chose not to press charges as it would be a pain for likely only a fine. Instead I reached out to the landlord and made him aware of everything that happened and past annoyances too. He is now starting to build case for eviction, and I can't wait to have them out. Update: there might have been other pre-existing issues I wasn't aware of because just over 24 hours later they are moving out. Stories number 40. McDonald's thinks every day is my birthday and I can't stop getting free food. The McDonald's in my town give you a free Big Mac and medium fries on your birthday, but they don't ask for unique information, like say, a phone number, when setting up a new account. I get off work at 11:30 p.m. most nights. I pull out my phone, make a new account, and tell them my birthday is the following day, 30 minutes from now. Sure enough, between 12 and 12:10 a.m. the following day, I get the "Go you/Fatal Foxtrot, it's your birthday" notification, and order my meal. Somewhat recently, this briefly stopped working. I looked it up and it turns out they started checking device IDs, but instead of just banning the duplicate accounts, they just don't give you the free meal offer. Luckily, it was an easy fix. I just download the app into a secure folder on my Android, which, for some reason, has its own device ID. I was questioned about this once by the window attendant. "Wasn't your birthday yesterday, too?" I kind of panicked for a second because I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled and winked. Fantastically, dude winked back and said, "Well, see you tomorrow night." They aren't paid enough to give a fuck. Stories number 41. I swear this should be a crime. I work at a restaurant as a waiter. I actually have 2 jobs, this is just one of them, but for now let's focus on this job. It is hardly news that waiters tend not to get paid well and mostly get paid in tips, but today I got a tip that felt like a cruel joke. As I was cleaning off the table for a group of 13 people, I noticed a $100 bill left under one of the drinks. I was happy but didn't have time to inspect it at the moment because it was busy during the lunch rush. As I was heading home after my shift, I was taking my tips and putting them in my wallet, and when I unfolded the $100 bill I noticed it was about half the size of a normal bill and was just made to look like one at a causal glance so someone would open it up and read a message about religion. Suffice to say that ruined my day. They really shouldn't be allowed to do this. Stories number 42. My daughter doesn't know I kept her brother's suicide note. I read it every year on his birthday. 5 years ago, my son took his own life. He was 19. No drugs. No warning signs. Just a note left on his desk and an empty bottle of pills. My daughter, his twin, was the one who found him. She begged me not to read the letter. Said it would only hurt more. So I told her I didn't, but I did. I opened it while she slept that night. I've read it every year since. It wasn't long. Just a few lines. He said he was tired. That he felt like a burden. That we were better off without him. He was wrong, of course. But I keep it. Tucked away in a fireproof box, wrapped in one of his old t-shirts. I don't read it to punish myself. I read it so I don't forget how fragile people can be. I read it to remind myself to keep seeing my daughter, who still flinches at loud noises and has nightmares every year in April. I'll never tell her That letter belongs to both of us now, even if she doesn't know it. Stories number 43. Aita for refusing to let my sister's kids use my child-free living room. So, I, 32F, live in a house that I specifically renovated to be child-free. Not because I hate kids, I just value my peace, clean space, and adult aesthetics. Think white couches, glass tables, vintage vinyl collection, and a massive Lego Star Wars display that took me 2 years to build. My younger sister, 29F, has 3 kids, ages 4, 6, and 9, and recently had to move back to our hometown after a rough divorce. I offered to let her stay with me for a couple of weeks until she could find a rental, under one very clear rule: the kids stay out of my living room. I even set up the finished basement like a kid paradise: TV, bean bags, snacks, and a whole bin of toys I bought just for them. But within 3 days, the 6-year-old had pulled apart part of my Lego Death Star to see inside, and the youngest had smeared peanut butter on my couch. I freaked out, not yelling, but firmly told my sister this wasn't working, and she needed to watch them better or start looking for other accommodations sooner. She got upset and said I was valuing furniture over family. I said I was valuing boundaries and that this was why I made it very clear from the start. Now my mom's calling me cold and says I should be more understanding because kids don't understand boundaries. I say that's exactly why parents are supposed to enforce them. So, Aita for enforcing my child-free living room and not wanting my sister's kids messing up my space. Stories number 44. I helped my ex through chemo. Now he's engaged to the nurse he met during treatment. When my ex was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma last year, he had no one. His family is out of state and he's always been a bit of a loner. Despite being broken up for almost 2 years, I stepped up. I sat through every chemo session. Held his hair back when he vomited. I fought with insurance companies. Cooked meals. Cleaned his apartment. Helped him shower when his hands were too shaky to grip the soap. I wasn't doing it to win him back. I genuinely just loved him as a person. We'd ended on decent terms. I wanted him to live. He got better, thank God. But as soon as the PET scan came back clean, it's like I disappeared from his world. No slow fade, no thanks for being there. Just silence. Then last week, a mutual friend told me he's engaged to one of the oncology nurses. Apparently they started talking toward the end of his treatment. He proposed last month. She posted the ring on Instagram, and I guess I just didn't make the cut for the announcement. I don't know what hurts more, that I meant so little, or that he meant so much. I don't want him back. I just want it to matter. Stories number 45. I hired a gang enforcer to recover my stolen boat by any means possible. A few years ago, my boat got stolen from my house during broad daylight. I was furious. I got on the phone and rang the cops. But I wasn't too hopeful from past experience. Cops are always too busy, and it could be months before I got my boat back, if ever. Then I recalled an acquaintance who was a gang enforcer, a person who collects debts for gangs, usually by intimidation or violence. What if he could get my boat back? I thought to myself. He must know a lot of people in the crime world. So, I contacted him and offered him money for the return of my boat. He replied, "Don't worry, I'll get your boat back within a week." A few days later, a stranger called my phone. His voice sounded very worried. "Hello, I'm ringing about your stolen boat. My family is very concerned about their safety. My son rang me and told me he stole your boat and dropped it off at my elderly mother's house. The father of the thief said he would drop the boat back at my house." I had my doubts. A few hours later, a couple in their late 40s arrived with my boat attached to their car. The man looked nervous, and his partner looked like she hadn't slept in days. I greeted them with a smile to put them at ease and shook his hand. He apologized and explained his side of the story. I told him about my contacts, but I figured he already knew. I told him to sort his son out, and I'd call the enforcer off and leave it at that. He agreed and was very thankful. We shook hands, unhitched the trailer, and they left. A few days later, a detective arrived, asking questions about my stolen boat. I replied, "I've already got it back." Stories number 46. Aita for publicly humiliating my stepmom during her wedding speech after pretending to help with the wedding. Aita for publicly humiliating my stepmom during her wedding speech after pretending to help with the wedding. So I, 16F, recently did something that everyone in my family is calling cruel and immature, but I honestly don't feel that bad, and I want to know if I'm truly the villain here. My dad, 45M, just got remarried to Trish, 38F. My dad cheated on my mom with her for almost a year before they got caught. I was 13 when it all blew up. My mom was a stay-at-home mom who gave up her career for our family, and she was completely blindsided. Watching her break down like that was one of the worst things I've ever gone through. My dad moved in with Trish within 2 months and proposed to her last year. He kept telling me that I needed to accept his happiness and that Trish wanted to build a relationship with me. I mostly stayed quiet to keep the peace, but I never forgave either of them. I've been in therapy, by the way. When the wedding was being planned, Trish actually asked me to be part of it, helping organize, coordinating with vendors, and even doing a speech at the reception. I smiled, said sure, and played along. I helped pick flowers, tasted cakes, and even picked out my own dress. But inside, I was stewing. Every time Trish called us a blended family, I felt sick. So, at the reception, I got up to do my speech. Everyone was smiling. Trish was beaming at me. I cleared my throat and said, paraphrased, obviously, when I was 13, I watched my family fall apart because my dad decided to cheat on my mom, with the woman he's marrying today. So while everyone here is raising a glass to love, I just want to remind you, not every love story starts with honesty. Some start with betrayal. Cheers. I put down the mic and walked out. The room was dead silent. Not everyone there knew that it had all started with an affair. Trish started crying. My dad chased me outside and screamed at me, calling me a selfish brat and saying I ruined the most important day of Trish's life. My grandma, his mom, actually defended me and told him he made his bed, but most of the family is furious. I've been getting texts calling me a drama queen, attention seeker, even cruel. But was I? After everything they did to my mom and our family, was it really so wrong to make them feel humiliated for once? Stories number 47. Aita for cutting off my rich friend because he refused to assist another friend in need, but spent over $600 on drinks. There are 5 close friends of mine. Among us, Kennedy is by far the wealthiest, presently, but the thing with Kennedy is that he never assists any of us financially, regardless of how bad the situation is. Instead, he likes to spend his money on purchasing costly drinks and tobaccos for us at nightclubs, simply to enjoy himself. He has been like that for long, but I didn't read meaning to it. He has even done it to me several times. Forgetting all the financial help each of us has rendered to him in the past previously when he has not gotten this wealthy, he has never for one day reciprocate any good done to him. Recently one of us, Stephen, was in a dilemma. He was involved in an accident and lost his job, and because he is an orphan, no one to look up to. I felt that we could do something to help him out, so I called our group of friends and suggested that we could do something for Stephen out of charity. The rest agreed and chipped in, with figures like $500 each. Kennedy, the richest one of all, said, I don't have money now, but let me see what I can do. Okay, I thought. But on the very same day we had agreed to give Stephen the money, Kennedy did not contribute a penny. He called us out for a night clubbing that evening. When I got there, he had already ordered drinks costing $600 plus and was going to spend even more. He invited me to join him and bought me drinks, declaring the bill was his. I hold it in. I told him right there, you could not spare even $200 to help Stephen, our friend, who is clearly in need, but you can spend $600 plus on drinks in the same night. I got up and walked away. Since then, I've been staying away from Kennedy and stopped attending the usual weekend parties he organizes. When he noticed I was my absence, he told the other friends that I'm jealous of him. When they confronted me about it, I told them a friend who can't help when you're in need isn't a real friend. After our conversation that day, they had rethink and they cut him out as well. Now Kennedy sent me WhatsApp message saying I'm a dick for turning our friends against him. Stories number 48. To fool by not realizing my messages were being delivered to my iPad and my kids were reading my texts. So first off, Apple, what the fuck? Why the hell does an iPad get text messages on it? Apparently I'm a 40-year-old dumbass who didn't know that was a thing. I'm new to Apple's ecosystem. I got a new iPad a few weeks ago and signed in with my Apple account. I rarely use it. I learned shortly after getting it that I hate tablets and prefer a laptop. So my kids watch Netflix and stuff on it. My wife and I are in our early 40s and been married 20 years this July. We have 3 kids, 12, 10, 8. Oldest is a girl, the other 2 boys. They're out of school for summer and we're apparently watching my iPad this morning. My wife works from home. Today I'm at work and thinking about her, and so I sent a message joking but also not joking, hey, let's do some fucking tonight. She responded with a laughing face and said okay. But that was it. I wasn't finished with the conversation. I'm gonna wreck that PSSY. This has been a long day. So get ready. Her, sure, big talker. You'll probably fall asleep early again. Not tonight. Tonight is a good night for fucking and sucking. Norm McDonald reference. That was pretty much it. Now I don't normally talk like this. I was just trying to be funny and risque. My kids have certainly never heard me say any of those words. But a few minutes later, did you know the kids are on your iPad? And did you know your texts are going to the iPad? 'Cause they just read those messages. I have no idea how to look them in the eyes when I get home. My precious 12-year-old daughter thinks I'm a degenerate. All three of them will be telling their spouses about this someday. It's like I just created a lifelong memory, just like we all have certain memories from our childhood we don't want to have. TLDR, I sent my wife some racy sexual text messages and my kids were on my iPad. The texts were being delivered to the iPad and they saw all of them. They'll never unsee them. Stories number 49. Friendship ruined over cheap wedding gift. This happened a few years back. My best friend at the time, 25F, was getting married. It was sort of a destination wedding, as it was 2 states over and about a 7-hour drive there. I was excited to attend, but had to purchase a new suit, transportation, and pay for a hotel, 3 nights. This was also the same exact month I had to pay $1,900 out of pocket for dental work. As you can tell, money was tight for me during this time period. The first thing that happened to my friend was her sending me a rude text about not staying at the right hotel. I had no idea, but on her wedding site she had a recommended hotel for everyone, except her and her groom, to stay at. I didn't see this, and booked a different hotel less than 5 minutes away, as it was more affordable. She was not happy about this, but I didn't understand why I had to be at this specific one. Because money was tight, and having already spent hundreds of dollars to attend this wedding, I only gave $80 to their honeymoon fund as a gift. Looking back, I admit I could have splurged for more, but I don't drink, was without a date, and figured that everything I did to attend this wedding would all be enough for her. About a year later, I mentioned to her I was invited to another person's wedding. Her first response was, well, don't be cheap and give them only $80. This message made my heart drop. Not only did it make me feel like a horrible person, I was also angry that she remembered my exact donation amount over a year later. From that point on, I lost a ton of respect for her, and our relationship was never the same. I just can't believe that her entire memory of me at her wedding was being cheap instead of traveling 2 states over for multiple days to be there for her biggest day of her life. How could someone focus on that? Stories number 50. My F30 husband, M32, has become indoctrinated by the carnivore diet. How do I get him to ease up on me and the kids? Hello, first-time poster. Please forgive me if this is all over the place, I'm not very good at putting feelings into words. I have been married to my husband for 5 years. We have 2 kids together ages 5 and 2. Recently my husband has started following a ton of people who are super into the carnivore diet and he has decided that this is best way to avoid any and all health issues. He completely believes all of the random strangers that swear all of their ailments have disappeared. He believes any amount of sugar causes cancer and I should no longer buy any food that has sugar or is processed. He doesn't even believe we need fruit or vegetables, but isn't trying to force me to stop buying those for me and the kids. Although he did hand an apple to one of kids and said, "Here is your sugar bowl." I understand that processed food and sugar shouldn't be the majority of your diet, and I do limit the snacking, but it's not enough. We have had several fights about this and he will not back down. I've tried to explain moderation, and a cookie a day is not going to cause our children to get cancer or be obese. He won't listen to doctors who don't agree with carnivore, and he won't listen to licensed nutritionists. It's getting hard to live with these constant arguments. Does anyone have any advice? Stories number 51. My manager changed an annoying policy that mostly affects me. In mid-2022, I was hired almost fully remotely, as agreed by HR and hiring director, at my current job as a systems engineer. Part of my job is on-site data center support. For months, I didn't have to do anything because nothing really came up, but as time went on, I did more data center work. Not a big deal, because 2 of them are close to me by car. Fast forward to October 2023. Due to client requirements, daily IDF and MDF checks were required again. It was split up amongst all of the engineering teams, with me being the lucky one of having to do it on Mondays. My main coworker, now team lead, was over an hour away because the train to his area was down. With the express train and bus, I could get there in an hour. During the meeting, the manager stated, "You don't have to stay in the office all day." This was approved by the director. You can go in, do the checks, and leave when you want. Great. I'd go in, sign into work while on the train and bus. Do the checks and anything else I might need to do, and then go home. This went on for well over a year. A couple months ago, my manager stated that if we go in, we have to stay in for the rest of the day. He didn't even have the audacity to tell us. My team lead had to tell us during a meeting and he thought it was complete bullshit too. I don't know the reasoning, but it's such a waste of time and worse for my work. Then I realized I could go in later in the day and then leave when I sign off work, at 3:30 p.m. Now I leave for the 12:30 p.m. train to get to the office by 90 minutes to commute. I do the checks and anything else that might need to be done, then leave at 3:30 p.m. One afternoon my manager calls me and I mentioned I was on the train. He asks, "Did you start late today?" I said, "No, just going to the office for the IDF checks like every Monday." He didn't respond, knowing I am still technically listening to his stupid requirement. My team lead laughed when I told him that. Stories number 52. When did love become just groceries, work, and sleep? 36M38F. I've been married to my partner for a while now. We love each other. We go on dates. We cook. We talk. We work. But when I try to look back, like really look back, it all blurs together. Not because it wasn't good but because nothing stood out. The last 6 months. I can't remember a single standout moment. We didn't dance in the rain. We didn't do something silly and random at 2 a.m. No last-minute road trip. No sunset on a rooftop. Just work, sleep, and maybe a show on Netflix we forgot we watched. I think what scares me is this: we're happy. But we're not making memories. And if this keeps going, one day we'll look back and realize we lived 10 years of love without stories to tell. Do you guys feel the same way? At some point we just become roommates and years fly by. Life should be more fun, shouldn't it? Stories number 53. Aita for telling my girlfriend I don't want to split bills 50-50 anymore. I, 28M, have been dating my girlfriend, 27F, for almost 2 years. From the beginning, we agreed to split everything 50-50, rent, groceries, dates, etc. I thought that was fair, even though I make significantly more than she does. I'm in tech, she's a teacher. Lately, I've started to feel weird about it. I cover some extras here and there, like vacations or bigger gifts, but the basic stuff is always split down the middle. The thing is, she's clearly struggling financially, and I know she's been dipping into her savings just to keep up. I brought it up and said I don't think we should do this strict 50-50 anymore, maybe something more proportional to income. Her reaction was not great. She said she doesn't want to feel kept or less independent, and that she wants to be treated as an equal. I get that, but isn't real equality also being realistic with our situations? I don't think I'm being manipulative or trying to control her, I just don't think someone should go broke to maintain a split that only works on paper. Aita for wanting to change the dynamic even though she didn't ask me to. Stories number 54. 8 months pregnant, and my partner's sister is pressuring me to take in their sick mom. I'm 8 months pregnant, working from home, and living with my boyfriend in a 3-bedroom townhome. One room is ours, one is for the baby, and one is a guest room. His mom is currently staying with another family member, but that person is no longer willing to care for her due to the demands of her illness and her difficult behavior. Now, my boyfriend's sister, who lives out of state and works full-time in another state, is pressuring us to have their mom move in with us, claiming we have the space. She's not offering any real help, just insisting that their mom has nowhere else to go and that we should step up. The thing is, I'm about to give birth, and I'll be responsible for a newborn basically alone most of the day, since my boyfriend works outside the home. My boyfriend has actually spoken to his sister multiple times and made it clear that this setup isn't realistic, especially with a newborn on the way. He's been supportive and has stood up for me, but his sister keeps pushing the idea like we're the only option. I don't have the capacity, emotionally, physically, or logistically, to care for a newborn and a sick adult who needs help with daily routines and appointments. I'm not a nurse, and I'm not okay starting our new family and relationship with this massive responsibility suddenly dropped on me. It feels unfair that I'm being cornered into this just because I'm nearby and working from home. I want to be compassionate, but I'm also trying to protect my health, my baby, and the foundation of our future as a family. Am I the asshole for feeling this way or for not wanting to have this responsibility? Edit. I appreciate everyone's response. Additional details I'd like to add. My boyfriend and I have been looking into home care for her, along with facilities to put her because nobody in their family is stepping up. We are waiting to talk to her doctor. The mom lives about an hour and a half from us. She expects us to take her to appointments despite us living this far. The mom visited us this past weekend and having her here for 2 days only was a lot of work. We have a 2-story place, she couldn't even walk up the stairs. She has certain dietary restrictions. Overall, I'm glad everyone agrees with me, I feel more strongly to stand on the answer, no. I have to think for me and my baby. Stories number 55. Aita for walking away from my former foster parents because I want to put myself first after nobody protected me as a kid. I, 19M, was taken from my bio parents when I was 7 and put in foster care with my older siblings, 21M, 23F and 23M. We were all abused by our bio parents, but mine was kept from them when we were still with our bios. That was done intentionally by our bios to turn my siblings against me, and it worked. They have hated me for as long as I can remember, and they started abusing me to punish me for not being abused by our bio parents. But we were all abused. They were abused in front of all of us. In front of me especially. Our parents made sure I saw everything they do to my siblings, and they made sure my siblings never saw them abuse me. But I have scars and old burn marks on my body from my parents. I have more scars than because of my siblings. When I was 10, I almost lost my eye from their abuse. When we were removed, it was ordered that we be kept together, and that meant my siblings had the chance to continue their abuse of me. Even when they were shown proof that our parents didn't favor me and didn't treat me better and that they had abused me too, my siblings were too far into hating me and blaming me. We had a few foster families in the first year that really didn't care about the abuse. The social worker we were assigned would tell me we'd all get therapy and we'd have a better sibling dynamic then. She told me we couldn't be separated because it was important for all of us to keep us together. She told me I would need to learn to cope with the here and now and know it would be worth it when we were older and close because we never got separated. We went to live with our forever family 15 months after being taken from our bios. They were nice people and they acted like they cared, and I thought maybe they'd protect me better. But no, they did not. They believed in keeping us together so strongly that they downplayed the abuse when I came close to getting separated from my siblings. They told me they couldn't send the others away and end all progress they were making and add to their abandonment issues. Then they said they didn't want to risk further abuse for me by letting me go either. No matter how many times I told them I was being abused either way, so at least give me a chance, they said no. My social worker fought against the separation too, and she got really nasty with me a couple of times when I told her she was failing me. She told me I was too young to understand how important it was. My siblings didn't move out of our foster parents' house at 18 or graduation. They stayed and continued their abuse of me, and my foster parents let them stay. They did give me a lock for my bedroom door, but one of my siblings busted that within 2 days. I was told multiple times that I would ruin my siblings' lives if I called the cops, so I never did. I felt too ashamed by then anyway. I just waited to turn 18 and I moved out. I was couch surfing for a few months before me and a couple of friends started renting together. Until recently I stayed in touch with my foster parents even though I moved out. I wanted to feel like they cared. And I think they maybe do. But in a selfish way where they wanted everything to work out for them and were willing to let me be hurt in the process. They got attached to us all, so they didn't want to let one or more go. But it failed me. I told them that too. When I went over there to say I needed a fresh start and no contact with them, I told them they had failed me. That nobody protected me as a kid and it was time to put myself first. They tried to talk me out of it, but I left their house and blocked their numbers. But a few days after, one of my foster mom's nieces DM'd me to call me out for hurting them the way I did and blaming it all on them. She said they tried to help me and they loved me, which is more than anyone else did, and I put too much of the blame on them. Maybe she's right. I don't even know anymore. I'm saving up for therapy, but shit's expensive, so I'm out of therapy again right now. Aita. Stories number 56. Whipped for breaking up with my GF for her getting a tattoo of her deceased ex's name. My girlfriend's ex died recently. We both went to his funeral and my girlfriend had been sad. I've tried my best to cheer her up. She's been better lately. However, the other day I saw her with a wrap around her arm. I could tell it was a tattoo and asked her what she got. She showed me and it was the name of her ex. I did not say anything, and I don't care if my girlfriend caught on to what I feel. Heck, I don't care exactly how to feel. I feel pissed, sad, jealous, and somehow betrayed. I feel like she never got over her ex now. I understand missing him, and being sad he's gone. But go as far as a tattoo, like damn, I don't care how to handle this other than to just piss off, to be honest. I broke up with her. I talked to her and told her I couldn't deal with this. She asked me what, and I told her the tattoo. She was somehow shocked. She tried to convince me this tattoo wasn't like that. I told her she literally got her ex's name on her for the rest of her life. I told her that's just not something you do when you are with someone else. She told me she was sorry, and she didn't think about that, and that she'd get it removed. I told her if she's gonna do it for her own sake, because that's not gonna change my mind. I told her the damage was done, and I simply don't think she's over her ex. She tried to tell me she was, but I told her that tattoo speaks so much more than her words. I feel a weird relief. I feel tired but calm. Stories number 57. Aita for telling my friend she has to pay double if she wants to pay for 2 people. Here's the story. Basically, my friend, let's call her Ashley, and I are going on a trip with 3 other people, Jess, Emily, and Sam. Ashley and I were discussing what the cost of splitting up prices were gonna be like for the hotel. I booked our hotel, and since there's 5 of us going, I told her it's gonna be split up into 5. Well, Ashley says she's paying for her friend, Jess, and wants it to be split up into 4 because even though Jess is going, Ashley is the one paying for both, and her friend isn't paying her back for it. I personally don't think that's fair to me, Emily, or Sam. Ashley is choosing to pay for her friend's hotel part. The way I see it, splitting it into 4 only benefits Ashley and Jess because she doesn't have to pay a penny, not me, Emily, or Sam because we'd be paying more than we should just because Ashley is paying for 2. But she's combining 2 into 1 because it's just her paying. If this is confusing at all, here's a mini breakdown of fake prices. Total of hotel, $100. 5 people equals 5 payments, $20 EA. How Ashley wants to do it. 5 people equals 4 payments, $25 EA. Because she's paying for 2 people, including herself, but she's only counting them as 1. That would mean me, Emily and Sam have to pay more than what we're supposed to owe. I don't think this is right. The way she wants to do it makes it to where Sam, Emily and I are also paying for Jess's part, not just Ashley. I'm pretty sure Ashley is upset with me because I told her that it needs to be split into 5 to make it fair for everyone else and she's not really been talking to me so Aita. Stories number 58. My boyfriend, 30M, keeps telling me, 24F, to wear a thong plus pad instead of wearing my granny panties during my period. I don't care what to say to him. Hello, long-term lurker here, and I never thought I would be posting in this sub cause I thought my relationship was solid. Until this happened, I guess. Just for more context, I get really bad periods, like heavy flow and leaking. I can't wear normal panties with pads or tampons or cups etc. I've tried everything, then I started using these thick padded panties I found online, and they actually helped a lot. But my BF keeps saying it's unattractive, cause it looks like granny panties, and he doesn't get why I can't just wear a thong with a pad panty liner. Like bro. What? I tried telling him it's not that easy to just wear a thong, but he still keeps saying it's not sexy, and I'm just need to try harder to make it work. He even suggests we go shopping together to buy the thong he likes. The thing is, my padded panties don't look that bad. They almost look like regular underwear tbh. I don't understand why is he so grossed out by it, and also I don't think he gets how bad it is. I have felt so gross during my periods, and this padded panty is the only type of underwear that I can wear without feeling icky. But now I feel even worse cause he makes me feel bad about it, and he doesn't stop there. He actively throws them out. Now I literally don't have any for my period, which is in 2 days. How do I even explain this to him? Or am I being dramatic? It took so long for me to find something that worked for my periods and I really don't want to give it up. Edit. Hello guys. I didn't expect so many comments at all. But thank you for all your advice. Some of you have been saying I am underreacting and not speaking up for myself. That's the problem I've been trying to work on. I'll talk to him about it, and if he still insists, I don't think I can continue being in this relationship. Stories number 59. Aita for refusing to recover at home after surgery. I, 29F, am really disappointed with my husband, 30M, and furious at his mother, aged F. Sorry this is so long. And throwaway for privacy. For context, my husband is from the West Coast, where his mother still lives. He moved to the East Coast for college and that's where we met, after graduation. In the start of our relationship, she would visit 3 to 4 times a year and make him take PTO so he could entertain her throughout her visit. After 2 years of this, while we were still dating, I asked him how we are ever meant to go on a vacation together, if his PTO is spent at home with his visiting mother. We agreed to save PTO for a trip to Europe we took in 2023, and he agreed to tell his mother he couldn't take off from work every time she visited. In my last job, I was able to work from home 4 days a week, and every time she visited, she sulked all day like a puppy who's had her toys taken away. But once my husband came home, a switch flicked and she was happy, and clingy, again. So here's the issue now. Husband and I moved states about 6 months ago, closer to my family. I have a new doctor who recommended me for a surgery that my old doc kept putting off. It's not a complicated procedure and it will greatly increase my quality of life for decades. My mother-in-law decided she's due for a visit and wants to explore our new town, and she'd come to help around the house while OP recovers. I'm going to be out of surgery and in pain, and I really don't want to put up with her energy. However, we agreed, with my husband saying this isn't a sightseeing visit, she's here to help out, cook, clean, laundry, etc., so I can rest and recover. She can come for a proper visit later in the year. My husband dropped me off at the hospital on Wednesday. It was meant to be surgery, then one night overnight at the hospital for observations. On Thursday, the doctor told me my labs were not where he'd like them to be and I should stay another night for observation and new lab work in the morning. I called my husband and told him that I'd hopefully be home the next day over the phone early afternoon. He did not visit on Thursday at all. On Friday I was discharged and called my husband to tell him that I'd be ready in about an hour. It went straight to voicemail and I figured he's probably in a meeting and I'll try again in a little bit. After calling a few times over the course of over an hour, I called my sister, who was lucky enough to be excused from work for the afternoon, many thanks to her understanding boss. She drove 90 minutes to get me and took me home and the house was in shambles. Laundry baskets on the dining room table, the litter box not cleaned since Wednesday morning, days of dirty plates in the sink, etc. I just broke down crying. She packed me a bag and took me to her apartment to recover for 2 weeks. On Friday night my husband called me asking me where I am and that the hospital said I was already discharged. He had been on a hike with his mother and there was no cell phone service so he missed my calls, which also meant he took PTO for his mom's visit again. Obviously, I can't ban him from taking PTO, but wouldn't you rather spend that freed up time with your wife at the hospital instead of on a date with your mom? I told him that I no longer feel comfortable recovering in our house and I won't be returning until it's thoroughly cleaned and his mother is gone. He's calling me the because his mother just wanted to get to know our new area and I wasn't able to leave the hospital anyway, and that I was making a big deal out of this. I yelled that he essentially abandoned me at the hospital and entertained someone whose being here was to help make recovery easier, not more stressful, and that she was here for support, not on a vacation. Maybe it's just the pain and pain meds, but am I in the wrong here? Is this a stupid hill to die on? There's a part of me telling me to see a divorce lawyer just to see what my options are because I'm not sure this will ever change. I know this is going to sound incredibly selfish, but I want kids but I now don't see myself having any with my husband in the foreseeable future. And if this isn't going to work out, I don't want to spend the next 5 years of wasting time and money on therapy and missing a chance to find someone I actually can start a family with, someone who can be a committed father and husband before he's a son. Many thanks to anyone who's read all of this. Edit, thank you, everyone. I stepped away for a while and came back to a lot of support. I think it's time to put my big girl pants on, unfortunately. Stories number 60. Aita for blowing up at my sister for naming her daughter after a fungal infection. So my, 20M, sister, 27F, and her husband had been struggling a lot with baby names. She was determined to find the single perfect name even by the time of her baby shower, nearly 5 weeks before the due date. She didn't seem any closer to picking something out than she was at the start of her pregnancy. Anyway, I knew she was struggling, so in addition to the $900 wooden crib on her list that I got for her, I gave her a list of, obviously, joke baby names. We have a really close relationship, and it was in line with both our senses of humor. She's a nurse, and I'm a biology student, so all the names were medications, infections, unpleasant animals, etc., that all sound like lovely girls' names out of context. Some of them were a little bit obscure, sure, but I included some obvious ones like Viagra and hernia for good measure. 2 weeks later, she told me she and her husband had finally settled on a name, Malacesia. The baby's name is Malacesia. One of the names on my joke list. Outside of the immediate issues, nearly impossible to pronounce on the first try, the ass smack dab at the middle of it, the first syllable being mal dash, literally meaning bad or evil, it's also the name of a very common fungal infection. One that my sister and I are both genetically predisposed to. One that we've both had multiple times throughout our lives. Her daughter will almost certainly catch it at some time. I pointed it out to her, and she said that yes, she knew what it meant, and she knew my list was intended to be a joke, but she just really liked the way it sounded. I don't think the husband knows what it means, I think he'd reject it if he did. She says that it's so obscure that no one will ever think twice about it. Except, you know, when little baby Malacesia turns 14, finds a weird spot on her neck, and goes on her phone to Google what it is. I told her that the name was completely unacceptable, and I was shocked that she chose it. I even suggested some similar names, like Mallory, Azalea, or Anastasia, that would be more acceptable, but she wouldn't hear it. She said that since I'm not one of the parents, I have no business telling her what she can and cannot name her child, and that I'm stepping way out of line. I think it's pregnancy hormones, and she'll regret the decision very soon after her daughter is born. Stories number 61. Am I overreacting for being angry that my husband ignored my warnings about getting pregnant and now expects me to terminate? My husband and I have a 19-month-old. Financially, we'd be okay if we weren't paying such crazy nursery fees, but right now, it's a big chunk of our expenses. I've been very vocal for a while about wanting a second child. I even told my husband that once our toddler turns 2, I'd like to start trying again. 2 days before ovulation, we had sex. Then again on ovulation day, we were both working from home. Before and during both times, I repeatedly said, "This is not a safe time, if you finish inside me, we could get pregnant. I'm not on birth control because I had a terrible reaction to it and had it removed. I told him again afterward, if you're sure you don't want a baby right now, please go get me the morning after pill. I said it 3 times. He laughed it off. So I assumed he was okay if it happened. Well, now it's 2 weeks later and I've found out I'm pregnant. He's now saying I have to get an abortion. I feel completely betrayed. He knew how I felt. I even gave him an out, the morning after pill, and he ignored it. His reasoning? We can't afford 2 nursery fees, and it'll be tight until our first gets free school at 4. I suggested putting other things, like saving for a mortgage, on pause to get through the next 3 years. But he's adamant. He won't budge. I'm the one expected to go through the physical and emotional trauma of terminating a pregnancy I actually wanted, all because he didn't act when he had the chance. I feel played, hurt, and honestly, furious. Am I wrong for feeling this way? Stories number 62. Aita 4, taking my daughter away after her mom wanted her to change clothes. I, 32M, have a daughter, 12 but 13 next month. Yesterday when she was with her mom, and her side of the family, for Mother's Day, my daughter texted me asking if I could come pick her up. I asked what happened and she called me crying saying that her mom wanted her to change her shorts because there was male company around, and then screamed at her when she didn't want to. I heard her mom yelling in the background and asked my daughter to put her on the phone. Once she was on the phone she told me I can come get my daughter if I want to cause she can't deal with this right now, and that my daughter doesn't need to have her legs on display. I said I was on my way and she said good luck with her tantrum and hung up. I went and got my daughter and we spent the rest of the day with my side of the family. This morning I got a long text from her mom mad at me for interfering by taking my daughter away from her and spoiling her. I told her that she herself told me I could come get her but she told me that I'm letting her manipulate the both of us. I left it at that. Aita. Edit to those asking if the shorts had her ass hanging out, no they didn't or I definitely would have had her change. They were normal length shorts. Stories number 63. I've worn a fake engagement ring for 5 years to keep men away and never took it off. This has been on my mind lately, and I figured this might be the place I can truly say it out loud. About 5 years ago, I went through a breakup that really messed me up. It was my second serious relationship, and honestly, it left me feeling drained. The first one had already chipped away at me with emotional manipulation, and the second, well, that one ended in betrayal I didn't see coming. At the time, I was working full-time as an accountant, climbing my way up in a pretty male-heavy environment. I noticed how often friendly conversations from male coworkers or clients would veer into uncomfortable territory. I was constantly navigating the minefield of being polite but firm, friendly but not too friendly, and I always walking that tightrope. Then one morning, while getting ready for work, I spotted an old ring. On a whim, I slipped it onto my ring finger. I didn't think much of it, until that week, I realized people's behavior changed. The glances became shorter. The comments died down. The questions about my relationship status? Gone. It was like I had cast a spell of invisibility over my personal life, and I liked it. What started as a one-time thing became a daily ritual. That ring became my shield. It wasn't about hating men or never wanting love again. It was about reclaiming a sense of control in a world where I felt constantly cornered or judged. 5 years later, I'm still wearing it. I've healed a lot since then, but the ring stayed. Not because I'm hiding, but because it reminds me of the strength I had to rebuild myself quietly and on my own terms. Maybe one day I'll take it off for someone who's genuinely worth letting in. But for now, it stays right where it is. This probably sounds strange to some, but to me, it was survival. Stories number 64. Hey, I'm rich, but can I use your goats for free? I'm doing you a favor. I have a very small ranch in California. I used to own a brush clearing business using goats. I haven't done that in years, but I do still have 2 elderly mini goats. Yesterday I got an email from a friend I've known since HS. We're both in our 60s now. She lives overseas and also has a massive house in Malibu with a lot of land. She comes from a family with a known name that was one of the wealthiest in California. She inherited millions. She has never for a minute lived without. The email let me know that she was in town to deal with her Malibu house as her land was damaged by our recent fires. She asked if I could bring my goats over to munch on the brush on her land. I haven't heard from her in over a year. No talk of pay. No explanation. The email was written as though she was doing me a friendly favor and it would be no big deal for me to haul 2 goats over to her place, spend a few days overseeing them eating, hauling them back and forth at night, as a favor, for free. I explained that my goats were old, and that I didn't do that anymore. That the work involved with doing something like this was pretty extensive. No apologies were forthcoming. Instead, she was miffed and wanted to know if I knew anyone else who would do that for her. Undoubtedly for free. I told her I did not know anyone with goats. I do, but I'll be damned if I'm going to subject them to this entitled woman. She abruptly said, thanks, and that was it. No, let's get together, I'm in town. No, it would be nice to see you. Just, let me use your goats for free, why won't you do that for me? This same woman some years ago, descended on a mutual close friend who was dying. She insisted on staying at the dying friend's house, taking up all of the woman and her family's time, energy, and resources to the point she had to be asked to leave because she was imposing so much. At that time, I had to cancel my long-planned and paid-for trip to see my very close friend before she died because this woman drained all of their energy. My best friend died without seeing me because of this woman and her entitlement. At the funeral, only my dead friend's family were supposed to speak, but the Malibu woman had written a 3-page speech that she thought she was going to give, because she considers herself family. When she got up and tried to head up to the front of the church to speak, my dead friend's brother finally had enough. He stood up, grabbed this woman by the arm and forcefully dragged her back to her seat. He was furious. I suppose it shouldn't be a surprise, but the sheer entitlement of some people who were born into money never fails to shock me. Stories number 65. Aita for refusing to dress like a background extra for a wedding I wasn't even invited to. TLDR, said yes to being a +1 for a wedding I wasn't invited to. Just found out they expect guests to follow a pastel color palette and wear coordinated outfits. I backed out because I'm not spending money to dress like a beach-themed accessory. A few weeks ago, I begrudgingly agreed to be my friend Ethan's +1 to a wedding for some guy we went to high school with, not someone I've kept in touch with or ever expected to see again. The wedding's in early June, still about 3 weeks out, and it's happening on some island off the coast of Massachusetts. We're staying at a resort in Salem. I don't love weddings, traveling without my own transportation stresses me out, and I was already pushing it by saying yes. This week, Ethan tells me we have to go suit shopping. I'm confused, why? I already own a black suit. I'm a +1, not part of the wedding party. Turns out the couple sent out a literal color palette for guests to dress in, pale grays, taupes, and soft pastels. They encourage everyone to stick to the scheme. No warning, no heads up. Just a full-on vibe control memo like we're extras on a movie set. Ethan wanted us in matching light gray suits with pastel blue or green ties. I'm sorry, but I wear black, navy, maroon, maybe beige if I'm feeling wild. That's it. I'm not about to spend money on a pastel-tied suit for a wedding I wasn't even actually invited to. I told him to cancel my +1 because I'm not going anymore. Now he's annoyed, saying I'm bailing last minute and making him look bad because people were expecting me. He left me on read and said he would talk to me when I was willing to be reasonable. We've been friends since freshman year of high school and have talked pretty much every day since. We're 28 and 29 now. But I didn't agree to be a prop in someone else's wedding photo aesthetic. I'm a guest of a guest. The wedding is still 22 days out. Surely he can find another +1 who's down to dress like a decorative macaron. Aita Reddit to clarify a few common questions. No, Ethan and I are not dating. We're just longtime friends, nothing romantic. I mistakenly said resort. It's actually a boutique hotel in Salem, not a full resort. I'm not super keen on the details, obviously, and that's my bad. I found out about the color palette just yesterday, 3 weeks before the wedding, 4 weeks after I agreed to go. Ethan admitted he knew about it earlier but didn't bring it up because, quote, I knew you'd be difficult about it. Renting a suit isn't really an option because the color scheme is super specific, and I'm not interested in investing time or money into looking like a decorative macaron. They not only sent out exact colors to be worn, but advised on which store to get them from. Why I agreed to go in the first place, I didn't realize this would be a high school reunion vibe, and I thought Ethan might not know anyone else there. Now that I know he does, and seeing the whole vibe, I wouldn't have said yes if I'd known up front. No, I don't own a beige suit. I was just making a point that I stick to a pretty narrow range of clothing colors, black, navy, maroon, and yeah, maybe beige once in a blue moon. My current formal lineup is 2 black suits and a black tux. Appreciate the chaos and the feedback, y'all are as entertaining as you are opinionated. Stories number 66. Does my husband really need lists? Do men really think this differently? I love my husband so much, I want to be clear about this. We have a pretty non-traditional setup. I own a business and make an insane amount of money. So I suggested he could leave his job if he wanted to, and he ended up doing so. We have young children at home. And so I brought in a nanny 5 days a week. 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. I get home around 3 p.m. so he watches them solo early morning and for about 2 hours a day. He's an amazing dad. Totally crushed it. The best, but I'm fully running the business and managing the household. I cook, do almost all the cleaning, laundry, all shopping and organizing, dishes etc. I also plan all the trips, appointments, and generally keep the ship running. On top of running a business that is constantly needing my mental energy, I'm drained. And honestly, it definitely lowers my attraction to him. He stopped feeling like my partner and feels more like someone else on my list. I rarely feel relaxed, and while I could just let the house drop or take things off my list, I still am the one who has to overhaul it all at the end of it. My big thing, he wants lists from me. But what would be helpful feels like common sense things. Floor dirty. Run the sweeper. Bed unmade. Make the bed. Dirty clothes full. Go put them in the washer. He says he needs a list. But to me that's like, okay, I'm your mom. You need me to walk around the house before I leave work and make you a list. I totally get men and women think differently, but I'm losing my mind. Should I just give in to making the lists, only asking for men's guidance? I'm not here to shit on my husband. I am completely uninterested in throwing out the whole man, so if that's your guidance to find another post. Thanks. Stories number 67. My 30F husband, 34M, offered me instant noodles as a Mother's Day dinner and doesn't understand why I'm mad. Is it time to give up? Are y'all okay? Genuinely, what the fuck is wrong with some of y'all? LOL. I wish I was making this up, genuinely. I reminded him of Mother's Day earlier in the week, his sister did as well. He made no plans whatsoever and instead kept asking me to essentially plan the day myself. I've mentioned in the past that I hate doing that. He wants me to plan everything. Date nights, special events, holidays. If I don't plan dates, we don't go, and then he gets mad at me. Anyway, I told him 2 things I wanted for Mother's Day. 1, for him to plan it himself, and 2, for him to not ask me what to make for dinner. Context on that last point, I work doubles on the weekends so I have time for sure during the week. Every Sunday without fail he asks me what to make the kids for dinner because he's incapable of looking in the fridge and figuring it out himself. I told him I didn't want to deal with that on Mother's Day, so what does he do? He asks me what he should make for dinner. I said surprise me. He sends me a fucking picture of ramen and said, I have this if you want it. I lost my shit. I've never felt so disrespected. He says, I didn't ask what to make for dinner, I asked what you wanted for dinner so I could make it, as if it's not the same question worded differently. We've been together 6 years. He knows what I like. Anyway, I'm fed up and thinking it's time to just separate. I don't think he's ever going to get it. Do you think I'm overreacting? Update, I'm leaving him. I don't know when exactly because finances are an issue, but we're done. He pestered me to come home early from work, and when I did he was just opening the fridge and asking me what we have so he can cook. He still hadn't even come up with a plan. I decided I was leaving him before I even left work, but this was really the icing on the cake. Thanks for all the kind words and encouragement. Stories number 68. Aita for getting upset at my fiance for giving away the flowers I bought to his sister for her in-laws. I, 32F, got really upset with my fiance, 31M, and his sister, 26F, this past Mother's Day, and I'm wondering if I overreacted. To set the stage, I woke up early and picked up some decorations and flowers for our small Mother's Day lunch. I arranged the flowers into 3 bouquets, for my mom, my sister-in-law, and my future MIL. We originally planned lunch for 2 p.m., but my SIL asked to move it to 4 p.m. last minute so she could attend a church event. This kind of schedule change is common with my fiance's family, so I've learned to just roll with it. Because we had extra time, my fiance and I went to grab groceries. While we were getting ready to leave, I overheard my SIL on the phone with my fiance asking about the flowers. She lives with us, along with my mom and sister, she pays rent, so it's more of a roommate situation. I told my fiance that she couldn't take the flowers, they were already spoken for. He told her no, but then explained that she wanted flowers to give her own mother-in-law. I reiterated that if she wanted flowers, she should go buy them herself. We live in a super walkable neighborhood with grocery stores, flower shops, and vendors nearby, so it's not a big ask. At the store, she called again, and I again told my fiancé to say no. He also suggested to her that we bring her a bouquet from the grocery store we were at, but I can only assume she said no and insisted in taking the ones that were at the house. Eventually my fiancé agreed and ended up telling her she could take the bouquet I had prepared for her. At the supermarket I tried to play it cool, but ultimately my feelings got the best of me and I walked away and went to sit in my car while my fiancé finished paying. I told my fiancé it was disrespectful, especially since we hadn't even gathered as a family yet. If I had already given them to her, and she chose to re-gift them, fine. But she never gave me the chance. I told him I wasn't in the right headspace to spend the rest of the day with his family, and I went out with my mom instead. I also asked him to have his sister reimburse me for the $40 I spent on the flowers, and I gave the remaining bouquets to my mom. I'm still fuming, not just over the flowers, but the ongoing dynamic. My SIL often leans on my fiance to solve her problems, and it constantly ends up affecting me. I've been trying to let this one go because it is her first Mother's Day, but I honestly feel disrespected and tired of the pattern. So, Aita for reacting the way I did. Stories number 69. Aita for not sharing the good tea with a friend. My friend was over visiting, I offered tea. She said yes. She's not much of a tea drinker, she normally drinks cheap herbal teas, which are not actually tea anyway, and isn't picky. I, on the other hand, have a cabinet full of teas of various types, imported from around the world. I offered her a decent selection, a nice oolong, a nice white tea, a high-quality herbal, a good flavored black. She pointed at something else in the cabinet and went, "What about that one?" I hesitated, then said it's pretty expensive puer I had imported, and she probably wouldn't like it anyway. She said I'm being stingy and could let her taste for herself. But puer is a polarizing tea anyway, and this stuff is not cheap at all, and it would be difficult for me to get more of this brand. I know I can make multiple cups from it, but I hadn't been planning on doing a puer week right now, and really didn't want to waste it on someone who probably wouldn't like it anyway. She doesn't even like strong black tea. For those not in the know, my family has compared the smell of puer to fish and dirty socks. I like it a lot, but I understand it's not everybody's thing. Now she's being passive-aggressive at me. Update Aita for not sharing the good tea with a friend. So I was judged NTA on the post, but there was definitely a lot of very lively discussion about tea snobs, and inappropriate nosing in cabinets. I very much appreciated all the comments. As it happened, about a week after the post, our friend group WhatsApp started talking about, you guessed it, tea. Specifically, somebody went, "What do you mean, different types of tea, like verbena?" And another friend, not even me, went off about how that's not real tea. Look, my friends and I agree on the important things in life. Also, I'm waiting for people to wonder why TF we keep on talking about tea on our WhatsApp group. It doesn't actually happen that often, I swear. Anyway, I jumped in and said, how about we have a tea party and I will let y'all try the fancy stuff. So we did. About 10 friends came, including the original friend who was cruelly denied the good puer. We tried 8 different types of tea, including some variants of the same type, so they could compare the flavors, e.g. 2 oolongs, 2 English breakfasts. The biggest hit was the chai, lol. Afterward some people asked where they could order some of the teas for themselves, and as for the friend from the first post, she tried the coveted puer aa wand. Did not like it lol. Otto, her heart opened to the Genmaica. One of my other friends did enjoy the puer, though. Everyone had a good time, and agreed that we should totally do it again. I am now sitting here and sipping my third steep of the leaves with great satisfaction. Stories number 70. Aita for refusing to give up the master bedroom to a friend's boyfriend during a group cabin trip. My friend group, me, 26M, my girlfriend, 25F, and friends J, 25M, Eva, 26F, Liam, 25M, and Frank, 26M, has a tradition of renting a cabin every summer-winter. The cabin has a master bedroom, double bed, a twin room, 2 single beds, a loft, 2 single beds, and a pull-out couch in the living room. My girlfriend and I have always paid extra to use the master exclusively. Everyone else shares the remaining beds, and Eva usually takes the couch since she snores and doesn't want to room with a guy. This year, Frank asked if his boyfriend Ed, 28M, could come with us. None of us hadn't met him, but Frank said he'd cover meals to make up for the cost. Ed seemed nice at first and paid for dinner the first night, which was cool. Problems started when we got to the cabin. Ed said he and Frank wanted to take the master bedroom. I told him, maybe a little harshly, that my girlfriend and I usually use it since we pay extra. Ed said he didn't get what the big deal was and that we could sleep in one of the single beds or the couch. These single beds are small and could not comfortably fit 2 people, plus Eva would have to share a room with one of the guys, and she didn't want to. Ed said that my GF and Eva could share the couch, and I could room with one of the other guys. I didn't want to room with a guy when my GF and I have been together a lot longer, and there's no reason for me to room with someone else in favor of a couple who's been together less than a year. Jay and Liam tried to help, like giving Ed and Frank the couch so they could sleep side by side, but Ed said he didn't feel comfortable in open spaces and insisted on the master. Ed and I argued more, and he called me homophobic, saying I didn't support his and Frank's relationship by not letting them share a room. I was about to shout when my girlfriend shut me up and told Ed we'd take the couch. We didn't see them much the rest of the trip. I mostly hung out with my GF and Eva on hikes. Ed and Frank used the master and left a few days early. My GF Jay, Liam, Eva, and I have been talking about what happened. Jay supports me, but Eva and Liam said I made a huge deal out of nothing and that letting them have the master for a week wasn't a big deal. Even my GF says I took things too far by keeping everyone up. I'm still pissed about being kicked out of the room, but I think I might be asshole because it was late and everyone wanted to sleep, but I kept dragging out the argument, and I didn't welcome Ed after he argued with me. TLDR, I didn't want to give up the master bedroom, that my girlfriend and I pay extra for, to a friend's boyfriend on our group cabin trip. Some friends say I overreacted and should have just let them have it to keep the peace. Stories number 71. Am I overreacting? My dad hit on my girl, what should I do? So I, 24M, have been dating my girlfriend, Jess, 23F, for about a year now. She's amazing, funny, kind, smart, and honestly way out of my league. I was planning on proposing this fall. A few weeks ago, I brought her home to meet my family for the first time. My parents had us over for dinner. My mom was lovely and welcoming, but my dad, 46M, was weird. Like, overly charming. At first I chalked it up to him trying too hard to be cool or friendly, but it started to feel off. He kept complimenting her appearance. Wow, you're even prettier than he described, and, if I were 20 years younger. I gave him a look, and Jess just laughed it off politely. But then things escalated. After dinner, Jess went to grab something from her car. When she didn't come back right away, I went to check. She was standing by the driveway looking super uncomfortable. I asked what was up, and she hesitated. After some pushing, she admitted that my dad followed her out and said something like, "You sure you're with the right son? Bet I could show you a better time." I was livid. I confronted my dad immediately in front of everyone. He denied it and claimed Jess must have misunderstood. My mom looked shocked but said nothing. Jess begged me not to make a scene, so we left early. Since then, my dad's texted me saying I owe him an apology for embarrassing him in his own home. My mom wants me to move past it for the sake of family harmony. I'm torn. On one hand, I don't want to alienate my family. On the other hand, what kind of father does that? Jess has been quiet about the whole thing but said she'd understand if I needed space from my family for a while. Am I overreacting? What the hell do I even do here? Stories number 72. Am I the bad guy for not letting my wife quit working? My wife wants to quit her job and has no solid plan for what to sew afterward. We both make about 100K. Anything she mentions is stuff that would probably pay 30K or so. She does get stressed out from work and the doctor signed her up for 2 months of FMLA. Right now she spends most of her day laying in bed watching TV with the dogs. I don't think it's right to put all the burden on me to be the breadwinner. Like, what if I lose my job? She makes me feel guilty for always saying no. She can't just quit her job. And while 100K salary might be a lot to some people, it would probably basically just cover our monthly bills, 2K mortgage, 2 new cars, pet insurance, TV, phone, internet. For reference, I'm 45 and my wife is 42. Edit. Not to try to get people on my side or anything, but part of this too is that my wife cheated on me about 15 years ago and did things that weren't appropriate other times after that. I don't feel like my marriage is super strong, and I guess she doesn't even think divorce is a thought, because what would she do if we got divorced? Edit 2. Thank you everyone for your opinions and support. Never expected so much feedback. Also, since people have asked, we have 2 boys that are 16 and 13. So not really kids who are super dependent on their mom. Edit 3. I feel like a lot of this is becoming a "should I even stay married" convo, and that's not what I was looking for. I was really just looking to see if I'm being unrealistic. The only reason I mention the marriage is it's not so strong and great that I'd never think of leaving. It's just something that pops in my mind when I think of her having no or little income. Stories number 73. My adult daughter lies about her childhood and it's breaking my soul. My youngest daughter is in her mid-20s. She is intelligent, self-sufficient, a beautiful woman. Hardworking and educated, enjoying her career. I love her with all my heart and have a lot of respect for all she has accomplished. But, the girl lies. A lot. She's been this way since she was a little girl. She would write fake secret admirer notes to herself and tell everyone. She'd come home with flowers picked from the neighbor's gardens and swear her secret admirer gave them to her. He wouldn't be a secret admirer then, would he? She was 8 and 9 then. Going into her teen years, she was going online telling internet friends she was abused in our home, cutting, anorexic, etc. Eventually some reached out from concern and we found no cutting, deaf, not anorexic at all. She liked attention. That's what she told us. I have many examples of grand schemes that we knew of, and probably many we didn't. Yes, we took her to therapy only to be visited by Child Protective Services over lies told in therapy. She spent a few weeks in foster care since none of the family would take her in while we cleared this up due to not wanting the drama or possibly ending up losing their children over her lies. It was tough to deal with. We never knew what was being put out there about our family life or the damages being done. I worked in a career that I could lose entirely if this child did or said the wrong thing, all for attention. She loves being a victim but was living what she termed a boring uneventful life. She wanted to be a writer and was desperate for some trauma to spice up her lived experiences and be a better writer. She has told us this. The lies though, it's breaking my spirit. My soul has cracks in it. Our good memories of childhood and family times, our holidays and vacations, all are tainted with her telling people extravagant lies and changing everything. The 2 months in Europe. She was suicidal, attempted with OD, found in the streets of Spain by gypsies who kept her and such. Said family and police found her and had her committed while we went on to enjoy our vacation without her. Never happened, and we have videos and pics and social media showing this. But she tells strangers, colleagues, people we'll likely never meet. But last year she told everyone in her life, after she moved cross-country, that she was going no contact with her parents due to heavy childhood trauma, abuse, and it going on into adulthood. She had said it was the reason she had to make a desperate cross-country escape, full of great fear and terror that we'd somehow find her and kill her. We drove her there, to her new job, rented her condo and got utilities started. Filled her cupboards with food, did a few tourist fun things. The minute we were gone the stories started and of course we heard them. It broke me, tbh. Almost 15 years of this endless barrage of destructive lies is killing my soul. I don't understand why she does this or why she doesn't understand how hurtful this is, right to the center of my heart. I never thought in my life I'd think that I might need to be the one to go no contact. I simply can't imagine it. Not long ago someone directed me to the R raised by narcissist sub and reading the posts and comments just shredded me. Those sounded just like things my daughter would say, except in her case none of it ever happened. None of it. No, her dad was not a raging violent alcoholic who was in and out of jail. He rarely has a beer and I've never seen him intoxicated. He's had one traffic ticket, that's his entire experience with police. No, I'm not a pill addict with gambling issues that bankrupted the family, cheated on my husband, and such. No, her older sister did not sell her virginity to an old man, video it and put it on Pornhub when she was 14 years old. It goes on and on and on. She had created a completely fake family history full of massive trauma. Because we're boring, but I can't deal with this anymore. People we meet with her, her friends, look at us side-eyed and we know she's made up another fake trauma story. Go meet her for lunch at work and colleagues are coming to peek and whisper. You have no idea how this feels. I can't do it anymore. By the way, she isn't no contact. She just tells them this. She was here for Christmas. I got Mother's Day flowers, we FaceTime often. And still the stories keep coming. Stories number 74. Coworker took my cell phone home. I just started a new job a few weeks ago. I was brought in as a co-leader to a department because the current lead is struggling. She's clearly feeling threatened and is actively making my integration difficult by withholding key information, leaving me out of Teams messages, and just generally being resistant to collaborative dialogue. She's in way over her head and rather than accepting me as the life raft she's been offered, she's doubled down on desperately trying to cover up her lack of knowledge. I'm trying to be patient with her but she's not making it easy. She did disclose to me that she had a traumatic brain injury about 6 years ago and that it often makes her feel overwhelmed and she'll forget things or mix up numbers. In our field this is extremely dangerous and can lead to physical harm or death. So while I want to support her and accommodate her, I also want to be realistic about her limitations. Anyway, Friday afternoon when we were both leaving I noticed I didn't have my personal cell phone and I mentioned it to her. She then hurriedly left the building while I went back to my desk to get it. It wasn't there. I called it several times. I then called her phone several times without answer, she sent it to voicemail the second time. 30 minutes later I had a higher-level administrator text her and she then brought the phone back. She claimed it was an accident and I want to believe it was and that it could have been because of her TBI. But the phones are different sizes, my phone was on my own desk, and she had her phone as well so it's not like she grabbed the wrong one and left hers. What are the odds this was an innocent mistake and not a passive-aggressive power play? If it was intentional, what was her end game? I can obviously track the phone. All it did was cause us both to get home later and it makes her look bad. I can't figure it out. Stories number 78. I sold my body to pay for court fees for custody of my child. I had a custody trial and at the same time a huge garnishment coming out of my paycheck. I make a decent salary. Or at least I did until July 2024. $1,300 a month comes out of my checks to pay for something a family member had in my name. I know, stupid of me. Anyway, I was short and a guy paid me $300 to have sex with him. It was an older white male. And I felt good being able to pay what I needed, but now I'm disgusted with myself and I haven't told anyone about it. I initially thought I could keep going until I realized I could be jailed for it and everyone would know. Now I just feel icky. And unfortunately the garnishment won't stop for another 4 months. Right now, I am short on my bills about another $200 and I've been looking up ways to earn the money honestly, but no luck. I work a full-time job and have a daughter, who I fought for custody for. We fled a domestic violence situation. She has never gone without the basic necessities. We live in a decent neighborhood, and I have a well-established career. Unfortunately, the irresponsibility of someone else is causing my trouble right now and it's stuck that way for a few more months. I'm torn between testing my luck and doing this again for the sake of taking care of my responsibilities or simply going without. Quick edit, thanks to everyone that gave me ideas and positive words. I truly appreciate it. I want to clarify that this situation will only last until a couple more months. I have a full-time career that pays well. The garnishment is what put me in a bad spot. I also do not plan to keep meeting up with people as I do know it is not safe. It was one time. Protection was used. It was over 3 months ago and I have been tested multiple times since then.